Ngobo reports.
Lukhona Force's family says it is fuming with anger, saying nothing could have prepared them for this loss. Force, who grew up in Durban Deep, was living with her grandmother and other family members in a humble home, the same area where her mutilated body was discovered. While no arrests have been made to date, police are investigating a case including hate crime and Muti-related crime. It's alleged the 14-year-old girl was killed because of her sexuality. Force's family, friends, teachers and fellow learners, including the Durban Deep community, will remember her today, even though they are struggling with unanswered questions. Thando Luhle, Eyewitness News.
EFF leader Julius Malema is doubtful Floyd Shivambu's redeployment to Parliament will improve the MK party's performance in the National Assembly. Shivambu, who left the EFF for the MK party last year, was removed as the party's Secretary-General earlier this week. This was largely due to his recent visit to fugitive Prophet Shepherd Bushiri's church in Malawi. Malema reacted to Shivambu's political career in Pretoria North yesterday, where he visited the home of late actor Presley Chweniakhaye. Alpha Ramushwana was there.
EFF leader Julius Malema was quick to dismiss any allegiance to his former deputy Floyd Shivambu as he weighed in on his redeployment by the MK party.
I don't work with Floyd anyway. Parliament or soccer match or anything. I'm into Floyd. With
Shivambu possessing a wealth of experience in Parliament, which spans over a decade, there have been suggestions that he'll boost the MK party's performance in the National Assembly. But Malema shook his head as he dismissed the suggestion.
So if you are saying this person is going to be an Holy Spirit and be in every committee and then boost the MK's presence in those committees, it's practically impossible.
Shivambu, on the other hand, accepted his redeployment to Parliament and promised to play a meaningful role. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
Let's stay with matters involving Shepherd Bushiri. The self-proclaimed prophet and his wife Mary have now accused the state witness who testified against them in their extradition matter of providing hearsay evidence. Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions Advocate Sibongile Mzinyati took to the stand to testify against the couple. In March, the two were ordered to return to South Africa after they fled to Malawi in 2020, violated their bail conditions. But the Bushiris are now challenging this before the High Court in Lilongwe. Zolega Kotashe has more.
In papers before the High Court in Lilongwe, Shepherd and Mary Bushiri submit that the state's only witness, Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions Advocate Sibongile Mzinyati, gave hearsay evidence which is inadmissible in common law countries such as Malawi. They argue that Mzinyati's reliance on investigators, who also relied on the complainants, makes the DPP's affidavit a third-hand one. They submit that the South African government can only blame itself for withdrawing 5 other investigators as witnesses, as they would have been appropriate to take the stand. Therefore, they argue that Mzinyati's evidence is inadmissible before the court. On this basis, the Bushiri submits that South Africa's extradition request must be dismissed. Zolega Kodashe, Eyewitness News.
Police union PopCrew is calling for the protection of whistleblowers, particularly in cases of sexual harassment at SAPS academies. It comes after trainees brought to light allegations of sexual abuse at the hands of trainers at learning facilities across the country. The union picketed outside the Hammanskraal training facility in Pretoria yesterday and says it will continue with demonstrations. PopCrew spokesperson Richard Mamabulo says their demands include a thorough investigation into all reports of sexual abuse, as well as the implementation of abuse prevention policies.
Protection mechanisms for whistleblowers and victims who come forward, mandatory training and sensitization programs for all staff and commanders interacting with trainees, an independent oversight structure to monitor and evaluate the implementation of these measures.
And members of the UN Security Council have criticized the United States after it vetoed a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Yesterday, the 15-member body held its first vote on that situation since November. The draft resolution had demanded an immediate, additional and permanent ceasefire in Gaza respected by all parties. It also called for the immediate release of all hostages held by Hamas, as well as other groups, as well as the free movement of humanitarian aid. In a statement, the United States said it will continue to stand with Israel at the UN while respecting the nation's right to defend itself. Gold is trading at $3,368.94 an ounce. The rand is at 17.83 to the dollar, 24.15 to the pound, 20.35 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $65.63 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the M1 South leaving Sandton between Grayston Drive and Corlett Drive. There's also queuing traffic on the N1 North. This is between Winnie Mandela Drive and Rivonia Road. That's due to an earlier accident.
A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures peaking at highs of between 18 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN. Murdered 14-year-old Lukhona Fose will be remembered by family and friends at a memorial service held in Johannesburg's West Rand today.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. The 702 Walk the Talk is hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane. Get your tickets today on primemediaplus.com.
702
Live
on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Good morning, 7 minutes past 9. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. I hope your Wednesday is beautiful. I think it's a little bit nippier than usual. It's definitely feeling more overcast. I heard that it'll be colder next week. And I think something about snow. I'm a little bit excited about the snow. Not necessarily the frostbite setting in, but I hope you are having a fantastic start to the day. We've got lots in store for you today. I'm also looking to hear from you. Are you watching our Parliament? I want your thoughts on Parliament. Talk about clickbait galore, right? So sometimes when I watch, I worry because you have a lot of clips that are clips that are being released in the public domain from our Parliament. I think some of them might be completely out of context, sure, but I think they pique people's interest. They definitely pique mine in terms of what's happening in those portfolio committees. So you see Papa Penny trending, you see Liam Jacobs from the DA trending, you see Ashley Souls also trending. And I ask myself, what do MPs actually understand about what their role is meant to be? I'm fascinated by the 7th Parliament because there is no outright majority. So everything that's contested could go either way, depending on which parties find one another. So I'm watching the MPs. What is your sense of how they're faring, their performance in the portfolio committees? 011-883-0702, 072 702 1702. Those are the numbers to call in or to send voice notes or WhatsApps to speak about that specific topic or even more. It is a Thursday, so we'll bring you the Hanging Out feature. Today we'll be joined by COSATU's Matthew Parks. Find out more about the Federation's Parliamentary Coordinator. That's between 10 and 11. Then in the third and final hour, it's a Thursday dialogue. We're looking at crime. Going to dissect it in two specific ways. So on the one hand, you want to look at the National Prosecuting Authority. Are they capable of handling big cases? We've been seeing them bungling quite a couple of very prominent cases, and I think that is concerning. So we'll look at that. And then at 11:30 to 12, we'll look at the issue of a trust deficit between communities and the police. What can be done to close that gap? Of course, as per usual, we start with the open line. Here, you call the shots, you shape the conversation. So feel free to raise anything really that you want us to discuss. 011-883-0702 to call in, 072 702 1702 for voice notes and WhatsApps.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It is becoming like clockwork when you think about it, isn't it? The happenings in our Parliament, the incidents, the clashes in those committees are now regularly finding their way into our banter, discussions, and even jokes. But really, I think we ought to ask whether or not our members of parliament understand their actual job. What is the task? So your party is elected. You are now the representative in the National Assembly in Parliament. What is the job that you're tasked with? What is your role when you keep saying, oh, we are lawmakers? Do you understand what it means? I'd even argue, for instance, the Higher Education Committee. For a second there, I thought, oh, impressive. But I'm now looking at it differently, and it didn't take me long to get there. I'm now starting to think it's a circus. One day, you had the minister and her antics. Then you had the universities appearing on their performance, right? Becoming a debate about personal pride. I don't know if anybody ever saw that, but Ashley Sauls, who's a PA, Patriotic Alliance MP, started grilling Enimos Manyawi, who is a Zimbabwean-born CFO of the Tshidi Health Sciences University. That, which was meant to be about the performance of the university, became about personal pride, South African citizenship versus loyalty to Zimbabwe. Take a listen to how that unfolded.
A resident and citizen of South Africa for close more than 20 years now. My children were born in South Africa, and I'm a South African. Thank you.
Okay, let's change the subject matter then. Someone born, not yourself. You're changing the subject matter. Someone born in Zimbabwe, other than yourself. Is it correct for him or her to feel that the Zimbabwean government must prioritize them, not you, them, for jobs in their country?
It depends on their circumstances. If they have grown up, worked the entire life of themselves, whether they were born in the DRC and they worked the entire life in Zimbabwe, or their children were born there.
CFO, now you're changing the subject matter. That's wrong. What you're doing now is wrong. I indulged you. I changed the subject matter upon your request. Now let's talk about, based on the question. Please answer the question. Is it correct for not you, a Zimbabwean that is in Zimbabwe now, is it correct for that Zimbabwean to expect the government of Zimbabwe to prioritize jobs for them?
It's correct. It's correct for the Zimbabwean government to prioritize jobs for Zimbabweans. It's correct.
So it becomes a back and forth about, as I said, South African pride and loyalty versus Zimbabwe, because the CFO was born in Zimbabwe. So they go back and forth. Mind you, that engagement was about the performance of the institution of higher learning. It was about the Tshidi Health Sciences University and its financial performance. And then you then also had Liam Jacobs. I think Liam Jacobs is relatively young. He's very young. And I think he's also brought in a conversation about skills that are required. How much experience do you need before being put on a national stage where you're meant to represent your party in the way that he is? He got slammed for this particular engagement around board members and the issue of board fees. Please take a listen.
And then I want to ask, how much did it actually cost you to bring all these people here for this meeting that is now being basically rescheduled so that we can have the minister to account?
So in terms of council members, the total cost was 36,000, approximately 36,000. And the rest was 48,000, and that excludes the meeting fees.
The meeting fees. Wait, are they being paid to come to this meeting?
It's dependent on the number of hours. Yes.
No, are they being paid as we speak?
Council members should be paid for attending any meeting that's related to NEC.
Okay, so it is now 12 o'clock, Chairperson, on the dot. We started this meeting at 9:30. If we proceed to 29 minutes to 1, they will get, if I've got my maths correct, a 4th hour. And how much do they get paid?
I'll tell you now, it's dependent on the number of hours. Per hour. Just allow me 1 second. Per hour.
And just for clarity, That means when they come back, they'll also get paid.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you get paid for coming here and not accounting. But proceed.
Chair, I just wanted to give you the hourly rates. It's about 307 rand.
307 per hour, per each. Right? So that is times 10. Right? That is 3,070 rand altogether per hour. Meaning if we drag this on, that's an additional 12,000 that's going to be added on if this goes to 1231, chairperson.
Yeah. So that was Liam Jacobs in one of those portfolio committee meetings. I mean, here's a person who is very young and understands the importance of social media. I think he's all over TikTok. And the complaints around him and not understanding even a board fee and understanding how boards work are part of what got him lambasted by social media. I mean, some of those who have appeared before the sports committee have complained that he's chasing social media clicks as opposed to focusing on the job. What is your view on performance and understanding what their responsibility is when they're there, that they represent you and I? It's not about them. That the questions that they're asking isn't about trying to profile themselves, but it's about the actual work. Do you get a sense that that's what the MPs are going through? I've got very different views, mind you. I want to bring in a Papa Penny clip. I have very different views, and there for me, I criticize his political party more than I do him. Take a listen to what happened with Papa Penny, how it went sideways, and I'll explain to you just after listening why I think there he was failed by his party and not him necessarily.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say something. I'm an African. Culture, social cohesion, respecting the elder and the young one. We are not here to harm anybody. We are not here to finish SAFA today. We are here to make SAFA to be more powerful. We are here, we are all brother and sister. We are here to fix it, not to damage it. When the car starts, we have to fix it. We have to understand. Because why you here is because government, we have hands in SAFA. That is why if it was a private, you are not supposed to be here. But here, we get a problem, we sit down like this and then we fix it. I want to understand Mr. Hluyo. Who's Mr. Hluyo? About. All right.
Honorable Kobani, go through the chairperson.
Okay, Chair. Mr. Hluyo, it's you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Aye, okay. I have a question here that Mr. Hluyo, are you out on bail on fraud and mismanagement case involving SAFA fund to CEO and new NEC? Why did the NEC fail to charge the CFO for his fraud and management of fund case? This practice raises issues of constitution as Ms. Namhla Mpele and others employed have been charged and fired based on allegation and breach of corporate government principles. What nationalities do you possess? What are the other rules on responsibility you possess in the association based being in the CFO? So you are not charged, accounted? Is what I wanted to ask. Is it true, Chair? That's my question.
Mr. Response, CFO.
So that was Papa Penny, also in one of those committees. My issue there isn't even about Papa Penny, because people have gone back and forth. People have laughed at Papa Penny Penny. Papa Penny Penny is a competent politician and has been around for a really long time, served mostly local government, if you look at his history, has participated in politics for a really long time. I think the failure by those who support him, parliamentarians have researchers, have people behind them, is asking him to communicate and engage in English. Papa Penny as an individual is known for saying he speaks English the way English people speak his language. You speak his language, so it'll be broken anyway. Then he's asked to then make an argument in a language that's not his, while he's a proper, solid Chitsonga speaking individual. And I think the failure was that, because then he gets lost in the Sekgowa, and then it becomes a joke and a gimmick. But actually, there's work to be done and there's something to interrogate, and it could have been articulated far better in his language. And I feel like that's where the loss is. There are research teams that are meant to help and prop these people. There's training that also happens to help them understand what the role requires. So they get lost in all of that. So that's my thing around Papa Penny. I know that Prince Mashele has said some very unsavory things about Papa Penny. I don't agree. I'm seeing somebody on the WhatsApp saying, what is Papa Penny saying? And that's my point. With the role that he has, the responsibilities, there should have been thought that actually in this country with so many official languages, he can articulate himself in the language that he wants to. What are your thoughts? 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702 for WhatsApps and voice notes. Kokeso, who's out in the East Rand, my favorite place in the world. Kokeso, good morning.
Yes, morning. Yes, I agree with you about the Papa Penny situation, right? And I think it also brings to the fore the language of communication in Parliament, which obviously has been predominantly English, And I think we all know that English is not a measure of anyone's intelligence.
Nope.
A person can communicate well in their vernacular language. So I think where Parliament actually failed them was that they should have allowed him to communicate in Xitsonga and then made sure that there's a translator there for him. To enable that communication. So I think, the reality that our parliament, it is very colonized, the colonized thing.
Yes.
And this is bringing forward, the discussion about decolonizing it, where multiple languages are spoken, and it's just not English as the dominant business language of the day. I think we really need to look at that, because even now people are laughing at him for the fact that he can't speak English.
Imagine.
English is not a measure
you
of
don't sit and think about what point he was trying to
ridiculous.
make. Absolutely,
Yes,
Koketo.
it's not.
Thank you so much. That's Koketo out in the East Rand. Like, you're not focusing on the message he's trying to deliver. You concentrating on the English. In fact, if you think back to last year, 2024, there were complaints about translators in Parliament. In fact, I think the MK missed an opportunity to make a point using Papa Penny around the shortage of translators that speak to other languages that extend beyond dealing with English and maybe Afrikaans. That here's an actual issue. Do we have sufficient translators in Parliament? And I don't think we do. The MK could have used this as a brilliant opportunity to raise that issue instead of forcing their own and humiliating him and leading us to this ridiculous conversation about language in a country with more than 11 official languages. I don't get that. Here's some of your voice notes on the topic.
Morning, Tshidi. No, I see. It seems as if we people would like to complain. That those guys that are doing a fantastic job. Actually, we are seeing what is happening with the committees. Yes, they may not know maybe the experience, it's lacking there and there, but they're doing a fantastic job, according to me. Because even if this thing of foreigners, in South Africa, it's funny. When you complain about this foreign thing, foreign people, and then people call you xenophobia and all, and we know PA is always say they don't want foreigners to work in South Africa because they're taking our job. So they're doing a great job.
Tshidi, good morning, man. Flores here from the Western Cape. Let me tell you, I think it should be mandatory for parliamentarians, chairpersons of portfolio committees to have some sort of a requisite skill. I don't think that a lot of these parliamentarians and chairpersons has the know-how on how to go about these things. And a lot of them are acting on emotions, man. So, yeah, There need to be some form of schooling before you can head these portfolio committees, and also the parliamentarians. There's sometimes just no discipline there. Have a good job, bye.
Thank you so much for that. I want to bring Sister in from Parktown. Sister, you disagree with me on Papa Penny?
TD, what's about King?
Papa Penny Penny.
At you. Because, it's so funny because last night I was trying to watch this, right? And I mean, as a black person, I was trying to even make sense, because sometimes you find that English is not an easy language. It's not an easy language, and you can't articulate
at all,
yourself, right? However, Tshidi, we cannot really give these people an easy way out. Papa Penny is very good in his language, right?
Yes.
He's not representing people that speak the language that he speaks. He's representing the whole country. And therefore, it's his responsibility to make sure that when he's going to address anyone, he can at least articulate in the language that we as a country are all going to be accommodated. If it's spoken in his language, I as a black person, I wouldn't have understood his language.
But sister, you raise a different topic though. You raise a different topic, because when you say what you're saying, I can accept that he represents all of us and he must think about that and take that into consideration. Then the argument that will rise from that for me would be, why are you not learning Xitsonga? Why are you also not learning each other's languages? Why do you then sit and just say, oh, I don't understand, full stop? Because part of what's gone wrong in our country is certain groupings' refusal to learn others. You know what I mean? We have more than 11 official languages. I'm trying to learn sign language, for instance, at the moment, because you must also do the homework too. Do you get what I mean? You raised that for me, but I'm taking your point.
Yeah, but Tshidi, what you're missing, I'm not representing the country, right?
Sure.
I am, as you are trying to learn sign language, I'm also doing the same. At least I speak about 6 South African languages, right? But the mere fact that he is representing not me, a Zulu, Tsonga, a Venda, you know what I mean? He has to speak to everyone. When he's representing the nation, then you have to accommodate everyone. And how many schools in this country really teaches the neck? Let's start from there. So
that's part of the problem, sister. You must remember that his language is also an official language. That part is also important. It is also an official language. It is represented. By the fact that it's recognized as an official language, it means that it is a representative of yours as well. But I take your point.
Then
I don't necessarily agree with it still. I still don't agree with it.
But get an interpreter to the...
And that's where the issue is with Parliament.
That's what he should have done. That's what I'm saying. It's his responsibility.
We've raised that issue. No, that's Parliament's problem.
He
no,
should have made it his responsibility.
Thank you, sister.
Being very nice to him.
No, I'm not. Thank you, sister. Out in Parktown, I'm going to let sister go, but I don't agree with her saying that he must get the interpreter. No, that's Parliament's job, not his job to do. Jabun Springs High.
Hi, Tshidi. So, look, I fully agree, right, on the Papa Penny positioning, right, to say, look, there should have or ought to have been people around him, right, to say, look, firstly, express yourself, anything you want to articulate, check and challenge, in your native language. What we'll do, for the sake of the meeting and the committee engagement, arrange what? An interpreter. But for me, that's not there, right? I was saying to the producer there, I feel like guys were just reacting to symptoms, right? Both the young man from the DA and the Papa Penny, because I feel like for me, at its core, if one looks at Papa Penny and Floyd, right? For me, I feel like those two characters and individuals, really to dispel the notion that MK was this tribalist, faction, it was just trying to obviously have a nice mix and try and appeal to the, obviously, voters in Limpopo, right? But outside of that, for me, I feel like the decision-making, is the one that is lacking at its core, because now, whatever Msholozi has done is backfiring, Yesterday, for me, whatever the Papa Penny trending situation, it's a missed opportunity, to really check and challenge.
It wasn't
fulfill your role, your job. And on that young man from the DA, again, decision making from the DA. You field a very novice guy who needs clearly, some background in how really things work. Directors' fees and whatever. Maybe someone needs to get him a character handbook, whatever. So that he familiarizes himself what to ask, what's appropriate. I looked at him at the Jordan match as well, where he was pushing on Jordan. Jordan was fighting back to say, look, you're just looking at my feet, but I don't travel alone. Why are you not incorporating everything else? Which were valid check and challenge points. But I feel like yet again, we're missing opportunities. We don't have sometimes the caliber of people who really need to, push the guys where they really need to be pushed.
Thank you for that. That's Jabu Alton Springs. The issue around the missed opportunity by the political parties, I think it's a valid one, because when you also appoint these people to be representatives, you must think about what they serve. I actually do have something to tell you guys about the MK party, but I'll tell you. There's already a splinter party that's been formed, but I'll tell you after the headlines about that one.
Thanks, Tshidi. A very good morning. The Craddock 4 inquest will return to the courtroom today after 2 days of unconventional sittings. The court has been on an in loco inspection with families of anti-apartheid activists, showing the court's significant locations linked to the 4 men's lives and their assassinations. Matthew Koniwe, Fort Galata, Sperum Konto and Scelom Mhlauli were abducted by Special Branch Police in 1985. We stay in the courts. The trial of the man accused of setting alight the Usindiso building in the Joburg CBD continues this morning, with state witnesses expected to take the stand. Sthembiso Mdlalose has been standing trial at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court for allegedly starting the fire which left 76 people dead. And the families of missing journalist Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zodwa Mdluli can finally move forward with burial preparations. It follows the positive identification of skeletal remains discovered on the border of Limpopo and Gauteng last month. After extensive tests and analysis, police have linked the remains through DNA to the missing couple. Those are the headlines this EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
Thank you.
EWN Traffic.
Thank you, Mbadi Dlamini. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you.
Well, on the N1 North in the Sunning Hill area, we've got some delays approaching the Baklu interchange. Please be on the lookout there while traveling on the M1 South. Out of Sandton, delays between Greyston Drive and Corler Drive. There's also queuing traffic along the N1 North in the Naturena area. This is due to an accident right as you approach the Golden Highway. And speaking of the Golden Highway, do remember those long-term roadworks taking place along this route between the N1 and the N12. As a result, one lane of this route is closed off to traffic. Please approach with care. If you're traveling in Germiston, we've got another accident scene reported along the N3 North, right near the Earlands interchange. Delays coming out of the Rand Airport interchange. Please be on the lookout there and drive with care. We'll have more updates. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Hey, Jim, what's wrong? Hi, Bob. I'm just so confused. I'm trying to buy a car and I don't know where to stop. Well, have you tried to... Cars.coza. Have you tried to... Sorry, we're trying to do an advert.
Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to cars.coza and let's find what moves you. Cars.coza.
Brush, stroke, paint, color, protect, and admire. From roof paint to exterior textures and interior silk, Warrior Paints has it all. The product range and stylish colors are amazing. And what's more, Warrior Paints has crushed prices for incredible savings. Enjoy that good old-fashioned personal service you deserve. For price, quality, variety, and service, Warrior Paints is streets ahead. Warrior Paints. Affordable, lasting luxury.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Drive your success and trade like a champion. CFI, a global leading broker now in South Africa. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial is an authorized financial services provider.
CFI, empower yourself.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and to expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we're looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 Rand advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So if you're a small business that dares to level up, enter on igniteyourbusiness.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
It's 9:35. You are through to the Clement Manyathela Show on 702. It is the open line. I said before the news headlines, I've got gossip for you. Abel and I going back and forth about, is it gossip or is it like source-based information? Make of it what you want. But yesterday we had this great discussion about the MKP and Floyd going to Parliament. Can I tell you from sources, so it's not gossip, it's actually journalism. Abel is journalism. So there is a splinter party already for the MKP. It is 18 months in. It's already got a splinter party, from my understanding, that's been registered. So that tells you what's coming in that space still. But we're not there. What I want to also ask you to think about a little bit is an announcement that we're expecting from the city of Joburg. So Mayor Dada Morero has a media briefing a little bit later on. He's going to unveil his bomb squad. If you were listening to his State of the City address, I think last month, maybe, in May, he spoke about a bomb squad. He'd already appointed Snooki Zikalala of the ANC, a Veterans League president, former journalist, head of the SABC News, as the lead of this particular bomb squad. So they're coming back. The bomb squad's job in this case is what it was in the military sense, where they come in, they find where the bombs are and clear them before they explode. So you're looking at core issues. What are the issues in Joburg that need to be dealt with before they spill over? So I was wondering, what do you think of that? Do you see it succeeding? Do you see it not succeeding? What are the priority areas that you want to see being dealt with by the bomb squad? Does it even matter who he unveils alongside Snooki Zikalala? And what do you want dealt with? Is it land invasions, illegal mining? Is it the potholes? Is it illegal connections, undocumented migrants? Is it like the dirtiness, just the filth that's around us? Is it illegal dumping? What are the issues that you want to see them prioritizing? Do you think it's yet another gimmick? What is your sense of it? And who do you want to see standing there dealing with the priorities? Remember, this also comes after a presidential task force was appointed in March. I'm not too sure what that task force has done. I do know that some of the traffic lights are working that I haven't been seeing, but that can't be it, right? There's got to be more. And I did see pictures of the president, I think, at the Joburg Library. So that would suggest that something is happening. But what are your expectations and what do you want to see happening? Dada Morero announcing the Joburg bomb squad a little bit later on. We are taking your calls. We are still speaking about our members of parliament or whether or not they're fit for purpose and understand what their role is meant to be. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. I'm seeing your calls. I'm seeing your WhatsApps. I'm coming to you now. Tabiso in Polokwane, hi. Tabiso, good morning.
We had actually thought, yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, go ahead.
And I'm saying that, at some point we thought that mediocrity is only on plenary, insofar as the behavior of parliamentarians is concerned. I mean, you remember the pay back your money saga and all of that. But unfortunately, now we have realized that it's more than what we see, because it has actually went to committees. I mean, if you see behaviors of certain members of parliament, insofar as committees are concerned, you will be worried as to, are these people making executive to account, or parastatals to account, or they are ridiculing those that are there? I mean, for an example, you can't ask an executive or any person, are you a good leader? Why are you in that particular position? All of that. What does that have to do with what you're doing, which you have been appointed for. I mean, those are some of the things that we probably get. I mean, secondly, you see the questions that they ask, you get worried. As South Africans, are we really represented in that particular regard? I think political parties or chief whips
those research teams, Tabiso, those research teams that are meant to support them. I also wonder about those teams that support.
Yeah, I don't know. I know, for an example, that some of them don't even listen to these research teams that put papers and say these are the questions that you need to be able to ask. They are there. I mean, for Liam Jacobs, for an example, will have been put in his phone so that it takes particular clips.
Liam is there for TikTok. Thank you, Tabiso. Let me give other people a chance. Thank you so much. That's Tabiso out in Limpopo. Kustas, hello.
Yo, Tshidi, hi, you know, I didn't like what happened to Pretty Penny.
No, I hated it, Jam.
Why can't we be proud of our languages, Tshidi? Yes, there's nothing wrong, Tshidi, to say broccoli is not broccoli. You know, broccoli will be taught by an English teacher at school, but we have no problem calling it broccoli. It's perfect. What I'm suggesting is, Tshidi, that Xitsonga is a great language. I mean, Penny speaks it to the core. Why can't we just speak this language and then be proud of who we really are? I mean, I know everything is Anglicized these days, and there's no way we can speak like an English person coming from England, English. We just can't. That is why I'm proud to see Afrikaners. I'm proud to see Afrikaners speaking English like an Afrikaner will do. It's okay. Speak like a Sotho will do. Speak like a Xhosa person will do. There's no reason to try and make it fancy here and say broccoli. Broccoli will be mentioned by English when I call it broccoli, and you're keeping it moving.
Thank you, Kustas. Kustas is out in Midrand. Kustas is out in Midrand. I am seeing Christopher in Four Ways. Hi.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Good, Christopher. Go ahead.
Ma'am, this is very disturbing that the research team of Umkhonto weSizwe threw Upapa Penny under the bus. And this is not for the first time. I think maybe it's part of their factions and whatnot. It doesn't make sense that you are writing a question for Upapa Penny in English, and if you remember, in that video, he was reading from an SMS or from a WhatsApp. And it is the very same thing that happened to Josh Shope when he went on stage.
Oh, that speech, the Sona replies, the debate. And
it was very vague. I don't know why are they sabotaging each other.
Hey, now you're raising other issues,
sabotage. It looks like a serious sabotage.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Christopher and Foys. Christopher says that what happened to Papa Penny is purely sabotage. I don't know. Malibongo and Midrand.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Malibongo.
Yes. Tshidi, I wanted to just support Liam, you know? Liam is very learned. I'm not sure how you came to the conclusion that he doesn't understand board fees. Because what he was trying to do was to expose on behalf of the public that these guys are being paid to come and tell us next time we will bring the information. That's how the issue of them being paid.
That's not how he articulated it, though. He might have been trying to say that, Malibongwe. That's not how he articulated it. And I don't think that people who say Liam is a novice are wrong. You know, the DA has a really good reputation of grooming young people from starting at local government level and raising them. I think Asha Soropan is a good example of what the DA does with young people. So they understand all levels and what they're doing. I don't think the criticism against Liam is wrong. And the criticism that is focused on making sure that he trends, I don't think is false either.
But Liam is the only MP in that committee who comes with the research. For 30 years, ANC MPs would come into these committees and ask sweetheart questions. Liam comes with the research.
It's important to criticize them
too. The conclusion that the man is a novice. He is breaking the record and setting the bar high.
How's he breaking the record?
Actual research.
How's he breaking the record?
Research, and He's coming with research, something that has never happened. For 30 years,
I think you make that. Malibongwe,
never done that.
Okay, hold on,
For
Malibongwe.
30 years,
Malibongwe.
MPs have never
Hold
done
on,
that.
that's actually a lie because you can't prove it. I'm not going to sit here and defend any political party because you don't know any better. I accept that there are suited questions, absolutely. But to say 30 years, nobody's brought research. Just Liam is the first one in our entire lives to bring research to a committee. Now I would like, that's a lie. There's no truth in that. But I take what you're saying about him bringing research. I take your point. So thank you for that. That's Malibongwe out in Midrand. That Liam is the only one who's brought research. That's a fallacy, and that's not fair to other MPs who've also served in different capacities as well. Makiwa in Johannesburg, hi.
Hi, morning, how are you?
Very good, Makiwa, go ahead.
Good. Yes, I think, as you said, intelligence is not measured by how articulate you are in the language of English. I think a lot of people missed the point which Papa Penny was putting across.
Yes.
That they are trying to make SAFA a better association. It's not all about getting likes on TikTok, asking questions in a way that offends other people and they fail to respond properly. Because the whole idea is to try and build SAFA, make it a better organization. And what Papa Penny said, because people now are laughing at him on how he read his question out, they missed the point that this is all about making South Africa a better country by improving these associations and making them function better. That's my contribution.
Thank you so much. That's Makiwa out in Johannesburg. Sammy in Centurion.
Good morning, Tshidi. Tshidi, hello?
Yes, I'm listening, Sammy.
Yes, I'm saying hands up. People must back off from Papa Penny. Like the fact that he is not articulating English is actually very funny that people are taking issue with it because the very same people, the very same African people, these are the very same people who are so comfortable with white people, for example, calling them names like Chepo. You know, Chepo, and instead of calling them Nakedi, then white people will call them Nick. And they're comfortable with it, and then they are taking issue with Papa Penny not being eloquent in English, saying that he must learn English. No, that is. I'm sorry to say to use this word that's always been used by the likes of EFF. This is slave mentality to the core. I mean, you are comfortable with people calling you Chepo and calling you Nick instead of Nakedi, and then now you're taking an issue Papa Penny not being able to express himself properly in English. People need to check themselves out. I mean, this is, I don't know what to call it. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, man. It's scary that African people are still thinking like this. The next thing they're going to be crying things like decolonization.
All right, thank you so much for that, Sammy. That's Sammy out in Centurion. Luntun Davidson, you agree with Sister about the language issue?
No, I actually do, and primarily because in South Africa we've got 9 provinces, and in these 9 provinces, each province has its own dynamic in terms of the language is concerned. And then you find out that English and to an extent Afrikaans are the only 2 languages that you will find as medium of instruction across 9 provinces. So invariably, this makes us an English-speaking country with the 11 officially recognized languages, but I'm sure we don't have schools in South African universities that are giving instructions in Xitsonga, in Xhosa, in Isizulu. The medium of instruction is English. So English really becomes the language, whether we like it or we don't. So it therefore means that if I'm going to take a position where I'm going to be representing people of this country, invariably, I need to be able to speak in this particular language. So it has nothing to do with my native Isikosa or my native Isizulu. It has to do with the fact that in the role that I'm in, this becomes a competence as opposed to a preference. So we are confusing these things, that a requisite competence to a person that in terms of the pride and that one would associate with the language. So I would like to also urge you on that side to actually look at this from a competency point of view insofar as doing the particular job as opposed to language they are. However, there's a particular curriculum that is required if you are going to go into into representing all 9 provinces of this country. So I think that is the point of view, that we should look at it as opposed to looking down or looking up at different languages. Just like from a technical point of view, it's important to be able to articulate this point of view.
All right, that's Lunto out and Davidson. Do you agree with that? That it's about competency, that you should be able to look at what language is best to articulate your point that everybody understands. Now, among the issue of translators, which I think, as I said earlier, Parliament has been found wanting in that regard in the past. Here are a couple of your voice notes on the issues we're discussing.
Good morning, Tshidi. As much as Ashley, the parliamentarian, I think the platform might have been wrong, but the question still stands to say, when you talk about patriotism, do we know whether people have got South Africa as a country and its people best interest at heart? When I look, I'm just gonna be straight to the point to say, we rank varsities. The varsities from most of the countries in Africa do not appear in the 500, the top 500, or the top 100. But we see excellence in the people who studied there. For me, I just see a contradiction. If you can just tell me where this excellence is coming from, the people who studied there, that we're supposed to say they are here to build our education system in the tertiary, they are appointed, but where they're coming from, their universities are not ranked among the top.
See, while listening to Penny, these are the people who are not going through to the crux of the matter. They are beating around the bushes, whereas the young man is going straight to the point to ask people to account, because that is all about accountability. It's not about how well you can speak English, how well you can make people laugh, how well you can entertain people. So I'd say give Liam his flowers while he still can smell them.
Good morning, Tshidi. I don't think there's anything wrong with what Jacobs is doing. Government has to be transparent, because some of the citizens were not aware of what was happening. Now, of course, in this day and age, everything goes through social media, and that's where people find information. And he has no choice but to inform people through social media. I can't speak for Papa Penny. I don't know why he's there, and he doesn't really serve the purpose. But other MPs that are helping us to know these things, it's very important.
All right, some of the messages have come through on the WhatsApp line. Morning, Tshidi. I totally blame the MKP for embarrassing Papa Penny. He should have asked questions in his home language. I agree with you, Tshidi. This is Jabli Sile from Midrand. Another message. I don't think it's about Liam. I don't think Liam doesn't know the dynamics. I think he just wants to make the public aware. Believe me, most of the people do not know that the money's earned by board members for doing nothing. They're paid for just showing faces as if they're celebrities. Check Sita's board members, they just paid tourists. So there isn't view around Liam. I'm not talking about experience and his own research, but I take the view that he's trying to make people aware of the greater picture. That is also important. Another one coming in about the bomb squad specifically. Bomb squad Haibo. Do we have a bomb problem in Joburg? I can tell you right now, we have a filth problem. Illegal aliens sailing on the messed up pavements we have to walk on, so we share the road with cars. Shops are selling fake goods. That's one of the messages. That's what, in this case, that's what the bomb squad is meant to deal with. It's not a literal bomb. It is the issues that could explode, that could go wrong in the city, that the mayor is trying to deal with. And that's what the squad is meant to do, to clear those things that are ticking time bombs. So walking on the roads with cars because the pavements are filthy and filled with people who aren't legally meant to be selling. The filth problem that you raised, the fake goods. In this case, that's what these people are meant to prioritize. Thank you so much for those WhatsApps. Here's some of your voice notes.
CD, with regards to the Johannesburg mayor, I don't think anybody who lives in the city is going to buy anything that the people who work for the city or a provincial government has to say. They've abandoned Johannesburg. It's turning into a slum like Detroit in the 90s in the USA. So I'm going to be very surprised if people call in and say, yes, they're supportive of it. The proof is in the pudding. Can they actually get things done? And then it raises the question, if they can now get things done, why have they allowed it to get to the state over a period of 10, 15 years? So yeah, I'm sorry to be very pessimistic about this, but I live in Johannesburg and I see every day what my city looks like. And it's sad, heartbreaking, horrific.
And his council still at the level of trying to identify what the issues are in Joburg. Gee, you've got to be kidding. June 2025, the mayor of Joburg battling to identify what the issues confronting his city are. We are in big trouble. Thanks, Tshidi, Thabo, Midrand.
All right, thank you so much for that. Lots of people about the bomb squad. I think there's something else about the bomb squad. A lot of people not convinced, but I think that first one where she said driving around the city and being from here, you kind of see. I don't know how many times I complain about the quality of the roads, right? So those are the things that we are hoping that the mayor is speaking about and that we get more. There is a tweet where somebody asked me about, let's just find it quickly, where they were asking about the issue of the roads, right? Saying what happened to the G20 route. We were promised they will be prioritizing because there's nothing working on the road. Some traffic lights are sorted, but potholes and the manner in which they're fixed is uncalled for. They create bumps instead of sealing the roads. Oh my goodness. I could write a book about the potholes that we experience in and around the province. I'm going to complain. Not that I'm going to, I complain all the time about the street lights. If you drive around in the dark, ulififing, absolute darkness on some of our highways, municipal roads, local, it is really bad. I'm pretty sure you'll start seeing action as we get closer to the summit because they've now confirmed that the G20 summit is taking place at Nasrec. I heard it couldn't happen in Sandton. It's taking place at Nasrec. So watch out for activity on those so-called G20 routes. Here's some of your voice notes.
Hi, Tshidi. In South Africa, we are not taking ourselves serious because we're taking people to parliament who doesn't have school, who doesn't have anything. Papa Penny doesn't qualify to be in our parliament. I know people love him as a musician. He should stay there as a musician, not in our parliament. He doesn't qualify to be in our parliament. Thank you. We must take ourselves serious.
Every time we are on the radio, we are not just talking. We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference. And every time you tune into 702,
you're not just listening to the radio.
You're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us.
And every step we take counts. It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals, but also bring us together as a society. Through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So keep walking
with 702.
And let's make this a journey to remember. 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Here at Betway, we're finding every way possible to make sure you can win your next sports bet. With our new Bet Saver feature, you could get your stake back or more on bets with multiple losses. Stand to win even when your bet misses. Bet Saver, exclusive to Betway. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is licensed and regulated by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 are permitted to gamble. South African Responsible Gambling Program toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Winners know when to stop.
Living wealthier starts with expanding your income so you have more to invest. At Standard Bank Private, you can enjoy UCount rewards, the cheapest forex rates from Shift, and exclusive benefits and discounts on banking solutions and travel. So, come live wealthier with Africa's best private bank. Apply online at standardbank.co.za. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Some walks are just for exercise, others for leisure. But this walk is for something greater.
It's team building.
This July, you won't just take a step, you'll take a stand. You'll walk through history. You'll walk with it. On Sunday, 27 July, the 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, returns. It's a route that winds through the heart and soul of our capital city. From the sacred grounds of Freedom Park to the powerful steps of the Union buildings. Choose the 8 kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7 kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4 kilometer for families and first-timers. Entries are 360 Rand for adults, 200 Rand for children under 12. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane, is where footsteps become footprints.
Remember, still to come is the Hanging Out feature. We are with Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator. That will be between 10 and 11. But for now, though, it's 10 o'clock. Here's Mbali Dlamini with your Eyewitness News update.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Dlamini. The Craddock 4 inquest is returning to the courtroom this morning after 2 days of unconventional sittings. The court has been in an in loco inspection with families of the anti-apartheid activists, showing the court's significant locations linked to the 4 men's lives and their assassinations. Matthew Koniwe, Fort Galata, Sparrow Mkhonto and Celo Mhlauli were abducted by Special Branch Police in 1985. Their charred remains were found in several spots around what was then known as Port Elizabeth. Mhlauli's brother-in-law, Gobani Zonke, who found Koniwe and Kalata's bodies, says returning to the spot 40 years later is emotional for him.
Well, first of all, it was an opportunity to relate the story. And it's part of the healing process just to relate the story. And indeed, it's actually opening wounds which have actually healed. It's actually also good for the families, more especially the sons of these fallen heroes, to know exactly where it actually happened. Just that connection.
Staying in the courts, the trial of the man accused of setting alight the Usindiso building in Joburg CBD continues this morning, with state witnesses expected to take the stand. Sthembiso Mdlalose has been standing trial at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court for allegedly starting the fire. Mdlalose confessed to igniting the blaze, which killed 76 people at the hijacked building almost 2 years ago. Alfa Ramushwana reports.
This week, the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has been hearing testimony from fire experts investigating the cause of the deadly Usindiso building blaze. Both experts testified that based on the tested debris samples, no traces of petrol or any other flammable liquid were found at the scene. This contradicts Sthembiso Mdlalose's confession, where he admitted to using petrol to spark the fire. But this is the same confession he tried to retract in court, claiming he was under duress and under the influence of drugs when he admitted to the crime. The court rejected his bid to have the confession ruled inadmissible. More state witnesses are expected to take the stand today. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The families of missing journalist Aseri Ndlovu and his partner Zoto Mdluli can finally move forward with burial preparations. It follows the positive identification of remains discovered on the border of Limpopo and Gauteng last month. After extensive testing and analysis, police have linked the remains through DNA to the missing couple. Ndlovu and Mdluli disappeared in February of this year. One of the suspects arrested in connection with the crime led police to the area where their remains were found. Tando Ngcobo reports.
It's been a lengthy, trying journey for the families of the murdered couple who have been seeking closure following the disappearance of their loved ones. Police spokesperson Atlenda Mate says positive DNA matched with the reference sample of the biological relatives.
The SAPS has already notified both families and is pleased to have assisted to provide closure to both families.
Police have made 8 arrests in this matter, and the accused face various charges including murder, kidnapping and possession of stolen property. They have appeared before the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga. Police continue to search for more suspects in connection to the crimes. Tando Ngcobo, Eyewitness News.
The ANC has described Rashid Lombard as a patriot who used his camera as a weapon against apartheid. The Cape Town International Jazz Festival founder passed away yesterday at the age of 74. During the 80s and 90s, Lombard worked as a photographer, documenting the country's most historic moments, the ANC's Khalid Said.
Comrade Rashid Lombard was more than just a renowned artist. He was a patriot who used his camera as a weapon against apartheid and as a lens through which the world saw both the pain and the beauty of South Africa.
And in the US, President Donald Trump has ordered an investigation into claims of a conspiracy to cover up former President Joe Biden's declining cognitive health during his time in office. A presidential memorandum released yesterday says the conspiracy marks one of the most dangerous and concerning scandals in American history. The probe is the latest in a long-standing campaign by Trump to discredit his predecessor. Republicans have long claimed that Biden was suffering from intellectual decline even as the White House pressed ahead with presidential decrees during his term. Gold is trading at $3,368.93 an ounce. The rand is at 17.85 to the dollar, 24.13 to the pound, 20.37 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $65.62 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got a major accident on the N3 North in the Bedfordview area, right near Van Buren Road. Delays from the Elands interchange. There's also an accident reported along the N3 North in the Germiston area, right near the Elands turn-off. Delays from the Wren Airport interchange.
A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures peaking at highs of between 18 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN, the Craddock 4 inquest will be returning to the courtroom this morning after 2 days of unconventional sittings.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
What are the matters that matter to you?
702 listens.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7.
And 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
6 minutes past 10, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. I'll be with you until 12 o'clock. So as per usual on a Thursday, it's the Hanging Out feature. I'm actually quite excited about this one because as one of the WhatsApps says, Matthew Parks has a lot of valuable information. I've got Matthew Parks who's hanging out with me, COSATU's Parliamentary Coordinator. Good morning, Matthew. Welcome to Radio 702. So if you've got questions for Matthew Parks, what do you want to know about him, what his work entails in Parliament, please feel free to call in and to engage with Matthew Parks. Our number is 072 702 1702, and you can call in on 011 883 0702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
So today I'm hanging out with political and labor activist who's dedicated his life to advocating for the rights of the working class. He's a common voice in conversations about the struggles of the poor, and he's dedicated his life to bringing these to light. Matthew Parks has also been a father and has a very unique life story about growing up in Russia. He joins me now from Cape Town. He's joining me on Zoom. Matthew, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Good morning, Tshidi. I thought we were going to interrogate you today since you made a media splash in Washington 2 weeks ago and you became the darling of the nation.
I don't know if I'm the darling of the nation. I find that whole episode so embarrassing. Thank you so much for your time. Matthew's voice, if you aren't familiar, if you listen to anything to do with these big events, if you listen to coverage around budgets and the likes, people often seek out the voice of somebody like Matthew Parks. As he's saying there, as I was saying earlier, he does represent a lot of worker interests and all of that. I had no idea you grew up in Russia. There's so much to try and dig and to make sense of who and what Matthew Parks is. Before I even ask you what your day-to-day role entails, where were you born? I understand that you grew up in Russia, but let's speak about the very start.
Okay. I was born in Joburg, grew up in Joburg, went to school in Joburg, then left in the late 80s. My father had been a journalist, had been a involved in the ANC quietly on the side. And then I think at a certain point, he was advised it's maybe better for him to leave the country. The 80s was a bit of a dark period for the country at that stage. So he left, and then I wanted to finish my schooling in Joburg. That also became a little bit difficult. But yeah, going to white schools in Joburg in the 80s was a different era, so to speak. So then I left, and I spent about 4 years in Russia. Well, it was then the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And then came back to Cape Town in 1994.
And then you've been back, and the decision in terms of where you work now, being the parliamentary coordinator and the work that you do, the activist work that you do, what informed that? I mean, you said your dad was a journalist. You spoke about the difficulty in terms of the schooling during that period. What informs who Matthew Parks became and the work that you continue to do for workers? What is it about the Joburg experience, the Soviet Union, be it, or even coming back to South Africa and finding yourself in Cape Town, that said, this is the right path? When did that decision take place?
I mean, I was kind
Recording
of
in progress.
I basically kind of, came of age during the 80s. It was obviously, I think people don't always forget how different South Africa was, to put it very politely, in the 80s. And, going to a white school, you would see the racism all the time. A few black, because I went to a private Catholic school. You would have a few African or Indian kids going there, and the kind of racism all the time. And even when they weren't there, it is a white school, so the racism all the time was just dripping. And of course, in white society, Africans were a little better than glorified slaves, maids, domestic workers, gardeners, etc. And one would see the small little human rights abuses all the time. I remember once, as a kid in Joburg in the 80s, I saw two African women fighting. Well, the other one was seriously injured, really badly injured. And I was a kid, a teenager, tried to call the ambulance. We didn't have cell phones that time, obviously. I went to a house next door. And the white owner, a woman, answered, the mother of the house, and she said, "Look, you can use the phone to call ambulance, but they won't come if the people are black." So that is, kind of a bit of an eye opener. And I phoned the ambulance naively, and they said, "Well, is the person black? No, sorry, we're not coming." And other kind of small, petty little humiliations, abuses, etc., etc. But of course, my father being a journalist and being close to the ANC comrades, would see the small stuff. Comrades would come and hide at our house on the run from the police. The police would often visit our house, break into our house, looking for, because that days you had phone books, you had to write your phone numbers down, put bugs in our house and those kind of things. And then, there's only a few of us at our school who were kids of journalists. I think there's about 3 of us. And so we were kind of like the traitors to the race, so to speak. Our headmaster was a former Rhodesian security branch police officer, who I think was quite infamous when I talked to some other of his colleagues. So I think those kind of small little things. And then when I went to Moscow, there was not large, but a significant ANC community there of exiled students and so forth. The ANC had a de facto office there, a mission. And you had, students from all corners of South Africa, whether from Mitchell's Plain, Gugulethu, whether from former Transkei, or what is now Mpumalanga, etc., of all races. And that, he was a non-racial South Africa. So it was a complete contrast to what I was used to. People were very welcoming, etc. And then, in the Soviet Union, you had a lot of people from all corners of the globe, whether from Tanzania or Vietnam or Cuba, etc., Germany. And people could just be people. So for me, that was quite an eye-opener. And of course, he had an approach to life where no one should be left unemployed. No one should be left homeless. There must be housing for everybody. It may not be great housing. There must be subsidized public transport. The kids of any family should be able to go to university, no matter how poor they might be, and have a chance to become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, etc. Something for me. So I kind of got bitten by the political bug at Tshidi. And I've been an ANC activist basically all my life. And COSATU is part of that kind of journey. And I, came back to finish my studies in Cape Town, and then have been involved with the ANC, then got involved in Parliament, in the legislature for the past quarter of a century.
Why workers? I mean, when you look at how vast the landscape as far as activism is concerned. You could have gone and focused on anything, really. Why specifically the well-being of workers, their rights, fighting for their plight?
I think for me, I mean, look, I've been in the ANC regional exec in Cape Town. In a previous life, I was the regional deputy secretary. And I think for me, a very disappointing moment was Polokwane, where hindsight's always perfect, but we made a huge mistake collectively to elect a certain chap as president of the ANC in Polokwane in 2007. But I felt that when I was working in the Western Cape provincial legislature at that stage, and I felt that COSATU was playing a critical role in kind of being the voice of sobriety, the voice of sanity, and even being willing to speak to its own comrades honestly and bluntly, say you are messing up here, you need to fix this, etc., but being constructive at the same time. So I thought that was a useful voice. And also, in 2009, a certain political party called the Democratic Alliance won the Western Cape elections and took over. And I think people like myself who had an ANC background were basically told, you're no longer welcome here. It's time to move along in life. And then I was not. So the DA brought its own little catered deployment in. Though as much as they might cry about other catered deployments, but look, all parties do that. No, so I joined. I went to the COSATU parliamentary office because I'd been involved in the parliamentary sphere. I'd worked in national parliament before, as a researcher. So I've been involved basically in the parliamentary sector for since the late 90s. And COSATU, I think, has a significant role since it established a parliamentary office in 95, and had really, if I look at who's been my predecessors, it's really attracted some of the strongest possible members of COSATU, who have made a difference on many issues. My predecessors were involved in the drafting of the constitution, on the labor rights, drafting the labor laws, in quite a variety of issues. So I thought it was a useful space. It benefits workers, but it benefits society too. And I think also, the ANC and the movement only remain as strong as COSATU remains, and vice versa. But so it was a chance to kind of play a small little bit of a role. So I think it's an interesting, exciting space. And then of course you get to meet interesting journalists like yourself as well.
Yeah, I often see you once in a while when I'm there and there's parliamentary activity. And I think you've kind of dipped into it a little bit. I wanted to delay it, but the job of a parliamentary coordinator, it's the one thing that does stand out about COSATU is that COSATU has Matthew Parks, as I said, and every one of us as journalists know that you also need to get the perspective of Matthew Parks on whatever it is. I mean, Lindsay consistently always reminds me, we can always ask Matthew Parks about it. What does the job actually entail in engagements? Because the other dilemma, I suppose, and it's not necessarily for you because we're here to talk about Matthew Parks, the man, but I suppose we must ask about it that though you have this affiliation to the ANC as COSATU, ideally workers should be able to engage with everybody. What is that like for you in Parliament, that space on a day-to-day basis? And what do you actually do as a parliamentary coordinator?
Well, basically, our task is to engage with government and colleagues in business too. At NEDLAC, when legislation goes first, and whether it's legislation about workers' rights, labor laws, minimum wage, or overtime pay, and those kind of things, or even just simply broader developmental issues like a national health insurance or a Bella Act, or transport issues or water issues, to engage them in Parliament and basically to make sure that workers' interests, which are not separate from the interests of society at large, everyone is interrelated, and to kind of make sure those views are carried through. And, where we find problems in legislation, to deal with them, to make sure that they're reversed and that we put in place progressive things. And of course, where we see good laws in place to kind of try to help it through, even if it doesn't immediately affect workers, but workers are not isolated from society too. They live in the same townships, in the same communities, they go on the same trains, and to kind of carry that through. But I mean, look, we have an alliance with the ANC, with the SCCP. It's in the DNA of COSATU. Even before COSATU was launched, that alliance was there with COSATU's predecessor. But we engage, once you're in Parliament, all members of Parliament are equal in effect. And whether you're from the ACDP or the PAC, we engage with all members of Parliament. And if they agree with us on an issue, fantastic, let's cooperate or collaborate, and where we disagree, we'll be very, vocal about it. But, we could also see that, the coalition era was going to come, and, wanted to also see how to assist the ANC colleagues in Parliament on just toning down the temperatures a bit, which are not always healthy in Parliament. And so, about 8 years ago, we had made noise as COSATU about paternity leave, that fathers don't have paternity leave as compared to mothers who have maternity leave. And one appreciates mothers give birth, fathers don't give birth. So it's, different, but there's still an important role. So one of the ACDP MPs drafted a paternity leave bill, a parental leave bill. And we saw it and we thought this makes sense. It supports us, and we engaged with her. And she said, well, it is in response to COSATU's views. And we then kind of worked together to get it through Parliament. I went to engage with the ANC to get their support and so forth. And even when we amended the Public Investment Corporation Act, also about 7 years ago, originally a DA bill drafted in response to a COSATU submission to Parliament. And then we engaged with the ANC to get the ANCs on board and then pushed it through. And even when we had the two-part pension reforms at Parliament in 2020 during COVID, the first bill which came in response to us as COSATU, our submission, was actually from a DA member who is now a DA minister. We actually felt that bill was too radical. We needed to tone it down a little bit. And then we had to spend about a year and a half convincing the late Tito Mboweni, the former Minister for Finance, about why we must support this and so forth. So I think, at times we can disagree. We can wear different T-shirts. We have different ideologies, represent different constituencies. But I would assume that, most of us would agree corruption is a bad thing. I think most of us would agree we must fix the state, etc. So it's a juggling act. But you don't have to be a member of the ANC to join COSATU. Our members come from all political persuasions. We have members of the DA who join COSATU. We have members of EFF who join COSATU. And we try to reconcile differences and to manage them, because society is not, homogeneous. It's complex, it's messy, and it's a democracy.
Absolutely. What do you find are often misconceptions about you? I mean, you're a white man, and Matthew's constantly, I've yet to see you not in your COSATU regalia. You're constantly in it. What do you find when you experience people are the general misconceptions about who you are?
Look, I think those misconceptions exist across society. I think some people, will look at me and say, here's a white guy, neoliberal right-wing lunatic. Others, white people. I was shouted at by a man yesterday. I don't know if he was drunk in Stellenbosch at a restaurant in Afrikaner, who were just shouting at me, COSATU, COSATU. So you do get a variety of kind of weird comments. But I think in most instances, South Africa is an incredibly tolerant, I think, understanding society, given where South Africa has come from, the trauma and the abuse. I think South Africa is a remarkably, inclusive society with all of our scars of apartheid. One can't, massage them too much. But look, it's a juggling act. It's messy, but yeah, I think one mustn't pay attention too much to insults and criticism, because if you look at Twitter and social media these days, even if the president was to offer the entire nation free KFC lunch, people would insult him and say, what about Nando's? I think we're in a little bit of a noisy, immature phase right now as a society, as I think if you look at social media, but I think the fundamentals are good. And I think coming from where we've come from, the dark days of apartheid, I think we made huge progress. But maybe I guess, Tshidi, also that I think with this year, with the kind of the social media fake news avalanche, I think we also underestimated how fragile social fabric is. And if you have people who think there's a white genocide and other kind of nonsensical things, that shows there's a problem. And I think people who are oblivious to the still living scars of apartheid, whether it's in Khayelitsha or whether it's in Manenberg, and the real difficulties people experience on a daily basis in those communities, I think we have a lot of introspection to do collectively as a country.
I'm going to ask you, actually, somebody's asked me about your accent, and I will put that to Matthew. But before I do that, I'm going to pick a song, and I just want to understand its relevance to you. Ooh, song. I
avoid using Delaray.
Anything but. We'll go with Miriam Makeba's Aluta Continua. I'm going to play one of your favorite songs for a bit, and then we'll chat about it.
people, open your eyes and answer the call of the drum. Frelimo, Frelimo, Samora Machel, Samora Machel has come. Maputo, Maputo, home of the brave, our nation will soon be as one. Frelimo, Frelimo, Samora Machel, Samora Machel has won. Mozambique, a luta continua, continua. 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 And to those who have given their lives, praises to thee, husbands and wives, all thy children shall reap what you've sown. This continent is a home. My brothers and sisters, stand up and sing. Eduardo Mondlane is not gone. Frelimo, Frelimo, your eternal flame has shown us the light of dawn. Mozambique, a luta continua, continua. In Zimbabwe, mama, a luta continua, continua. In Botswana,
A luta continua. What a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song, Matthew. I always think A luta continua there by Miriam Makeba, the late Miriam Makeba, the great even. I always think it's a difficult song to listen to because it always reminds me of where we come from and the fact that actually we're not done yet. Why is the song significant to you?
I think for a couple of reasons. One obviously kind of coming of age, so to speak, the 80s. And then, music. South Africa's got an incredibly diverse pool of talented musicians. Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, Sipho Mabuse, Johnny Clegg, Ladysmith Black Mambazo. And all of them played a different, really significant role in the liberation struggle. When things were very dark, often as only musicians who could express society's frustrations and even to communicate what is a vision for a free South Africa. And they had a huge impact. The mobilization of the international community against the party regime, musicians played a huge, huge role because they helped to simplify it. And, Miriam Makeba's song, A Luta Continua, it also kind of, so I have a lot of close friends from Mozambique, from Frelimo. And, the amount of solidarity that neighboring states gave to South Africa at huge cost to themselves. I don't think we've ever fully appreciated that. Mozambique became independent in 75. And until 93, it was subjected to one of the most brutal civil wars, which was basically funded by the former Rhodesian regime and then the apartheid regime. Samora Machel, I think many of us believe was assassinated in effect. And he gave home to many South African, many ANC exiles, Angola to Lesotho, Botswana, Zambia, and all, significant costs. And I think that's not often appreciated. But of course, how does one not love Miriam Makeba? But there were so many different songs of that generation. Chico Twala's "We Miss You, Manelo" playing on Madiba. You couldn't say Madiba's word in the 80s.
Yes, Manelo.
And you had, Johnny Clegg, a white Jewish guy, a kid from Joburg, learning isiZulu, embracing it, etc., mixing with jazz and so forth. So basically contrasting to the very ugly vision of apartheid to what could be a democratic, non-racial South Africa. And, it played a huge, huge role. And it was way kind of really to excite societies. I was lucky in 1990 when Madiba came out of prison to be part of this ANC kind of organizing team, so to speak, at the concert in London. It was a reception concert from April 1990. You had all the artists around the world, all the the big names, and it was full to the capacity because it was symbolizing the world support South Africa, is mobilized, etc. So yeah, I think for me those are kind of like really classics, and it just shows you the potential of South Africa too, and that. I think we're spoiled for choice along a lot of these musicians.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to you just after the headlines to continue with this conversation. We are hanging out with Matthew Parks, COSATU's parliamentary coordinator, and I think it's a conversation that you have to go back in time, right, to understand who the man is and the role that he plays. A lot of things steeped in history. There is a kanga, I think, at the background with former President Nelson Mandela's face on it. I want to know more about that. I've been looking at the books as well, Matthew. I want to know more about the books that you read. It's 10:31. Here's Mbali Dlamini with your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. A very good morning. Gauteng police believe progress is being made in the fight against crime, with the latest statistics showing a drop in most categories. Provincial Police Commissioner Tommy Mtombeni released the fourth quarter crime statistics for the 2024-2025 financial year today. He says there were 8,000 less counts of serious crimes for the 3 months under review. The trial of the man accused of setting alight the Usindiso building in Joburg CBD continues this morning, with state witnesses expected to take the stand. Stembiso Mdlalose has been standing trial at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court for allegedly starting the fire which killed 76 people. And emergency service teams are on high alert with the first of the winter cold fronts moving over parts of the country, where the forecasters say this is just a preview of the rest of the winter season. The South African Weather Service has warned of damaging winds in KZN. At the same time, the weekend cold front is expected to deliver icy conditions, snow and rough seas across inland and coastal areas. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the M1 North, this is in the Omondi area. We've got an accident reported right near Xavier Street. It's causing delays. Please be on the lookout there. While on the M2 West, delays in the Crown City area. This is between the Crown Interchange and the Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic on the M3 North between the Elands Interchange and Van Buren Road due to an accident seen there. There's also queuing traffic on the N1 South due to another accident seen in the Waterfall area right near the Baklu Interchange. Delays from Allendale Road, and in the city of Tshwane, a slight backup really on the N1 North just as you approach the Flying Saucer turn-off. We'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
What if this season wasn't about pushing through, but about letting go? At the Vineyard Hotel in Newlands, Cape Town, winter wraps the world in stillness. The air softens, the mountain slows, and you get to pause. The Take a Breather Winter Special is your invitation to lean into life's quieter rhythms, misty mornings, warm meals, and time to simply be. Book by 31 August at vineyard.co.za and enjoy 15% off of our best available rates, including breakfast, with a minimum 2-night stay that includes a Saturday. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3247. My financial advisor asked if I was expecting any inheritance. I said, I don't have a trust fund, but I trust that funds will find their way to my bank account. He was not amused.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Every small business owner knows that you gotta dream big to achieve even bigger. And Nedbank Business Ignite on 702 understands that it takes guts and determination to show up for your customers and expand your business and your bottom line. That's why we are looking for all the SMEs of Gauteng that dare to reinvent, expand, and shake things up. You could win 200,000 Rand in cash and a 200,000 advertising package to help you chase your small business dreams. So if you are a small business that dares to level up, enter on Ignite Your Business.co.za for Nedbank Business Ignite on 702. T's and C's apply. Nedbank, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
10:36, the Clement Manyathela Show. Tshidi Madia in for Clement. We are hanging out with COSATU's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks. Just before the headlines, we listened to one of his favorite songs. We listened to Aluta Continua by Miriam Makeba. Matthew, thank you for hanging out with us. I was looking at the books on your bookshelf, trying to make out some of the titles. Earlier, you spoke about what happened to the ANC in Polokwane. So you voted for a certain chap. And who you're referring to, and you did not name, is former President Jacob Zuma. There are a lot of Zuma books on your shelf in the background. I see some things around Kgalema Motlanthe. But what caught my attention, of course, is the big images of Utatu Nelson Mandela in the background. You've obviously been around watching that transition and working alongside the ANC. On a personal level, those episodes that the party has gone through that ultimately translates into changes the country's gone through. What's that been like, being in the belly of the beast, watching the changes? And it's your comrades who are part and parcel of steering some of these changes that have taken place.
No, I think it's been quite frustrating, quite disappointing. I mean, the ANC was or the Liberation Movement, which is a very broad organization, ANC, COSATU, the youth organizations, etc. I think always didn't view itself as a party, viewed itself as more of a movement. And as much as a huge mass movement, it's been almost like a family. And hence, I know other people will find it strange why the ANC members refer to each other as comrades, but it was meant to symbolize a special bond. Often people in different journeys of life went through difficult conditions. So I think, we underestimated the difficulties of transitioning to a democracy and the sins of incumbency and the allure of wealth. That when people get into office, that money can corrupt and lots of money can corrupt absolutely, or power. So yeah, I think, for me, Polokwane was a very disappointing moment because like in the ANC Western Cape, that was really the the factionalism on steroids which broke the ANC in the Western Cape. In 2004, we had gotten about, in the Western Cape for the ANC, 46% of the vote on a national ballot, 44 on the provincial ballot. Today, the ANC struggles even to get 20% in the Western Cape. And it's because society just looked at us and says, well, you guys are more interested in factions, you're interested in your pocket. You're not focused on the issues on the ground of poverty, of inequality, of unemployment, etc., or crime. And that, I think, the decade, without having to really litigate what happened during state capture, I think that was a huge blunders. But within it, there are pockets of people who are decent, like Kgalema Motlanthe, many other people who have done outstanding work, often not always appreciated. But also, the sins of the ANC are not the ANC doesn't have a monopoly on sins. Those sins exist across society. They exist in churches and businesses and communities. They exist in people's families and homes and so forth. And I think we have to see how do we really try to address that. It's been a bit of a messy period, but these are own goal, TD. If we had continued on the path we had before Polokwane, I think today would be a very different, not a perfect picture, not to be naive, but I don't think would have had the kind of the crisis we have seen in many instances. But look, there is hope too. One doesn't want to be all doom and gloom and depressed people. I think society has shown a capacity to go to the precipice and then pull back. How we managed COVID-19 collectively as society shows we have a potential to. And even if you look at in this crazy year of fake news, how even the South African media has been unashamedly patriotic to say, we don't think there's a white genocide here. There's a crime issue, but let's see how to collectively work together. But yeah, no, I think today it was quite disappointing. And I think you find many ANC comrades have just kind of given up, but I think we do have an obligation to pick up the pieces.
You are a dad, if I'm correct. So what's that like, juggling that role, parenting, with the demands that come with policy, the role that you play in policy development, and being an activist?
Hey, I think people often don't realize, activists don't realize it's their family, their kids who pay the price for the work they do. I know when I was very active in the ANC regional exec, Monday to Sunday, I would be in ANC meetings, whether it's doing train station blitzes at 6 a.m, whether it's going to branch meetings in Philippi at night or going to some far-flung informal settlement in the mountains. So I think, families pay a huge, huge price. And I don't think we always appreciate that. Our former ambassador to the US, Ibrahim Rasool, who was a premier and our chair at one stage, always made a point, which if you don't have your family behind you, there's nothing you can do as an activist. You have to have your family fully with you. And they do pay a huge, huge price. Yeah, so that's one thing I do regret, if I can be honest, having neglected my kids. I've got 4 kids, and I think when I look back now, and I often missed out some of those moments. Though, yeah, one has tried to play an active role, take the kids to school, make sure the homework is done. I still go to all of my son, even though he's now an adult, all of his soccer matches on a Saturday. Yeah, the kids are your number one legacy. I think family comes first above everything else.
What do you do for downtime, though? So much of your life is spent with comrades and the likes. And when I look at people that I know in the NC, even their social life, it's like a bribe, but the bribe is discussing comrade things. And I'm like, when is your downtime? When is politics, policy, the state of the country not part of your conversation?
Hey, I try to do 2 things, because you're right. If you don't find a way to cleanse your head, you'll go nuts. I realized that years ago when I had dreams about ANC membership pack books. We used to have membership books. And I thought, hey, if I'm having dreams about membership books, there's a problem here. So I tried to I even tried to advise my colleagues always to have something nothing to do with work as a hobby to cleanse your head. Otherwise you will go nuts. And so I try to, read 1 or 2 books a week, ideally nothing to do with my work. So I try to go and read about what's the chaos in Somalia, what's the chaos in Mongolia, and often you get comfort that not only us are having silly mistakes, other countries have the same challenges. And because I'm very much a middle class white suburban chap, I try to walk my little dogs, once a day just to kind of clean their head, and of course, go check my son's soccer games out, etc. But look, I'm lucky at Tshidi. Cape Town, we have 2 mountain ranges to look at, so we've got free scenery. I think in Joburg you've got mine dumps, if I can take a low shot.
That's a jab. We don't appreciate the jab. We have city views. We have city skylines to appreciate.
You've got the SABC and Telkom Tower, I think.
We do. And the Central City one. We have skylines. That's all I'm gonna say, is that the skyline is beautiful with the city views. I'm gonna play another song, but before I do, I also want to invite the listeners to engage with you. 011-883-0702 if you want to put a question to Matthew Parks. You can also send a voice note or WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. Let me play you some of the WhatsApps, Matthew.
Hi, Tshidi. I hope you're good, and hi to all the listeners. To be quite honest, I'm one of those who, for the longest time, I thought Matthew Parks was black. I really did until I saw him. I'm like, what? All along. So, speaking about those misconceptions that people have, you associate him with a black person by virtue of him being part of this association. Anyway, great show. Love you.
All right, thank you. See, even the work, Matthew, for people isn't work that they want to associate in this country with white people. So even that, when I was asking about misconceptions about your role earlier, people think that those who care about worker rights are where the majority is found. I asked you about your accent earlier on because also, if you close your eyes and you listen to Matthew, you can't be certain of who or what is speaking. Where does it come from? What influenced it?
I think the fact that I went to the Soviet Union when I was young, my early teens, and then you get dumped into society where people are speaking Russian. I went from a class of 28 white kids to I think the only white kid from South Africa. So yeah, and I think since that time, life has just been mixed upside down, inside out. I live in a coloured area of Cape Town, Athlone. So yeah, everything's a little bit of a poiky cost, so to speak.
So that's where it comes from. There's another message here on our WhatsApp line. Let me just grab it for you quickly. Hold on for me. Ooh, hold on. It says, good morning. May I ask Mr. Matthew why labor unions should be aligned to a political party? COSATU and ANC, how independent is COSATU? I think he attempted to answer this, but I'll let you have another jab at it, Matthew, because you did say earlier that you guys have members who come from other parties, but that is a perception that people have again, that COSATU's members are aligned to the ANC because it's part of the alliance, I suppose.
Yeah, but look, there's always a juggling act, and there always are contradictions, and there's pros and cons. Workers join COSATU unions because that's who's there in the workplace. So, in my previous job, when I worked in the Western Cape Legislature, we all were members of the Nahawu branch. It is the only union there. But we had members who came from the DA, from the ACDP, from all sorts of parties. I even doubt the ANC would have got a majority of the votes. But COSATU was born during the liberation struggle in 1985, born in alliance with the ANC and the party. And those are basically the political vehicles to help working with COSATU to achieve liberation and non-racial democracy, etc. And that was even before COSATU's time. COSATU's predecessors in SACTU and other labor formations have been part of the broader ANC alliance. Not just COSATU, even a lot of the other NGOs, even some of the church formations, civics, youth structures, etc. But look, people ask, is it still relevant today in a democracy? So we think there is, and we take the criticisms, and there's nothing wrong with the criticisms. We might come with 10 demands as COSATU to the ANC and government, and we get about 6 of them sorted out. 2 were told to go play outside, other 2 not possible. It's fine. But without speaking badly of colleagues in other trade union formations, they will struggle to do that because they don't have the access that we do. It doesn't mean you have to sell your soul or abandon your principles, but you have a platform. But it benefits the ANC too to know that it's able to hear issues of workers on the ground and able to see how do they use the state to address those frustrations and so forth. We're able to cut through a lot of the bureaucracy because government, parliament, it can be very this huge kind of very slow bureaucracy. So we're able to kind of cut through a lot of corners too. People will say, we're there to become ministers, etc. Not really. Sure, we would want some people to become ministers because it helps to influence the state in our direction to benefit workers. But, during COVID, we were able to have daily conversations with the presidency, with the former Minister of Labour, to say we need to release more money to help workers through the COVID-19 TERS relief, give money to workers' pockets because they weren't getting paid. We're able to kind of engage with the presidency. Let's extend the SOD grant. It's a lifeline to millions of people. So it helps to have those conversations. And I think would struggle the day when you don't have an ANC government. I think it'll be a difficult thing. But look, I mean, you take it one step at a time. The ANC is not perfect. It's made huge blunders.
Yes.
Also, there's also huge gains too as well. So, but we have to keep pushing. And look, we have to also engage with other political parties now who are into government. So we do meet with other ministers. We've had good meetings with the Minister for COGTA,
Velinkosini
Hlabisa.
Mr. Hlabisa.
And so it's interesting with him because, you know, he's the president of the IFP. COSATU specifically in the IFP don't have, and the ANC too, obviously, didn't have a good history before 1994. In fact, the IFP had formed a counter rival to COSATU, UWUSA, which died. But, you know, we've had fantastic engagement with him. We found him to be very respectful, very pragmatic, engaging. We're able over the first 2 months of this year to say, how do we resolve this issue of 67,000 community works programs, workers who are going to lose their jobs? And we were able to engage with them. We leave aside our differences, but I think we also respect, and actually we acknowledge we actually have shared constituencies. You know, IFP members would often be members of COSATU affiliates. But I think, you know, we have differences. That's fine. Let's put them aside. Let's focus where do we have common interests and how to resolve the issues of today.
All right. I'm going to take a short break. After that, I'm going to play another song. You know, he mentioned a lot of songs earlier, and a lot of them steeped in the early 80s, in the struggle for liberation movement. But there's one really intriguing song that's on his list. I'm going to play that for you after this break.
Outsurance knows South Africans are feeling the pinch, so you've been looking for ways to save money. You could cut corners with things like that coffee brand you love. Or you could go the easy way, where you could save money on your car insurance. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Let's hear what real Outsurance clients have to say.
I saved 455 Rand. It was quick and easy.
I'm saving 411 Rand a month. Outsurance helping me save money.
That saving is actually saving my paycheck. Leave all the insurances and come to Outsurance.
It was fast, easy, and he gave me the best quote. My savings is 644 Rand. Come join Outsurance and save some money.
Make today the day you switch and save. And SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
As a business owner, I've noticed how being energy efficient has improved my savings and the growth of my business. You too can improve your margins by adopting energy efficient behaviors. Simply switch to energy saving lighting, switch off non-essential equipment, and maintain HVAC systems. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to see your business soar, as well as contribute to a greener planet. Just like every Rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
All right, 10:52, the Hanging Out feature. We're hanging out this hour with COSATU's Matthew Parks. So, Matthew, I wanted to play an interesting song, but there are people who actually want you to listen to them, for you to get your flowers and to be celebrated. I think this voice that's going to come on now might sound very familiar to you. I don't want to say her name. I just wanted to first say hi, and you must take a guess. Hello, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Hello, Tshidi.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for letting me come on. And thank you. Hey, I saw you taking no prisoners. It was just so impressive. You said what the people who needed to be diplomatic couldn't say, and you said it all.
Thank you. I want Matthew to figure out your voice. I'm looking at Matthew's facial expression to see if it's connected. Is it connecting yet, Matthew?
I'd want to say it's Zanele, my colleague.
Ding, 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 ding. Well, we know it. Yes, it is. Zanele, go on.
I just wanted to call and say Matthew has the biggest heart ever. You know, he is just so willing to pass on information, to mentor. I mean, I don't know if he even knows how many of us he's actually mentoring. He's got the biggest heart and a very mischievous sense of humor, as you have been giggling this morning, Tshidi. It is such an honor, such a privilege to work with him. And I just wanted to say to him, thank you. Stay you. We love you. Thank you so much.
Stay you. Thank you so much, Zanele. That's a really, really beautiful message there. She even tweeted just before the conversation started that this is a treat. She's really, really happy. Thank you, Zanele, for that message to Matthew. Before you even comment, Zanele, Matthew, you want to respond to her quickly?
Zanelli's left me speechless. She's too generous with the kind compliments, but it's appreciated.
There's some voice notes that I want you to listen to. I want to play your song, but I want to give people a chance to speak to you first.
Hi, Tshidi. Good morning to you and Matthew. To me, Matthew's voice is just too beautiful for a trade unionist. I can't believe, I don't know, he should be doing something like voiceovers or acting. Every time I hear his voice, I keep, this guy is not a trade unionist. Well, yeah, perception or whatever you call from me. Bye.
Hi, Tshidi. Thank you so much for a great share. I'm having a laugh here listening to my colleague, my comrade, Comrade Matthew. Lehoa Labrasox, GS Wako Kosatu. Great guy. Great listening to him. We're learning a thing or two about him, things we didn't even know. Myself as a colleague, so very interesting interview, and I'm enjoying the show. It's funny that you speak about the Mandela, Kanga thing that's always in the background when Matthew does interviews, including the signature red corset jacket. And I was told Matthew was robbed, unfortunately, a few weeks back, and they took a lot of things. Amongst of the things they took was a signature jacket, when we were actually laughing about it in the CEC last week, saying one of our affiliates, Sakto Textile, must actually make a plan and donate to Matthew his signature lumber jacket. Great show. Thanks.
All right,
Hi,
thank
Tshidi.
you.
I hope you're good. And hi to all the listeners. To be quite honest, I'm one of those who, for the longest time, I thought Matthew Parks was black. I really did. Until I saw him, I'm like, what?
No, we've played that voice note before about the accent. Thank you so much, Matthew. Just so much love. Like, I love when people are appreciated and people communicate it. I don't know. I do know, actually. Let me not lie. How difficult it is to receive it. Your posture, the work that you do, that it is being seen. But Lukwala bra socks. That's what she said. Like, that kind of outpouring, and when people see you.
No, it's positive. I mean, I think it's always positive. I think that's all one wants in life, is to make a little contribution, and then if some people receive it positively, I think that's good. It's a bit of a strange thing, because we also get lots of insults and clubs and hate mail and so forth. But look, I mean, I think South Africa also, despite of all our noisiness, South Africa is a fantastic nation. It's a caring nation. I think that's what pulls us through every single time, that you have people who are really just trying to leave South Africa in a better place for tomorrow's generation to take over. And I think, it's chalk and cheese compared to how things were in the 80s, where it really was two different worlds. And white people were basically, living in paradise, and African people were best not to be seen and living in absolute, subjugation in the most brutal conditions. And compared to where we are today, it's a huge difference. Not that we must be complacent. I mean, we've still got so much more we need to do as well.
And then just very quickly, lastly, the question of legacy. I've run out of time, so I can't play. I wanted to play Waka Waka by Shakira. Abel is stopping me from playing it and asking you about it. It's such a random song on that list. But let's speak about legacy. What do you want us to remember about the work and the contributions of Matthew Parks?
Well, in fact, the Waka Waka song, as my kids tease me about liking Shakira. But I just thought it was a fantastic song. During that World Cup time, I mean, who would have imagined South Africa was going to host the World Cup? Leave aside how it misbehaved in that Decade State caption on all those the dumb things we've done as a society. But, just symbols South Africa, the first African country to host the World Cup, and it was a world-class World Cup. So I think it's the kind of bar we should set ourselves to. And of course, who doesn't love Shakira? Maybe that's a teenager in me. I don't know. Look, for myself, the legacy must just be your kids. Did you do right by your kids and your family? Did you try to live up to the to the role model your parents set for you. I hope one has done that. Were you a decent human being? Hopefully. Hopefully you made some small contribution to make society slightly better off. And I think, people love to ridicule COSATU, they love to insult us, which is fine. We must take the punches. But I can point to, a lot of things we have managed to do, and all of them are not perfect. The fact that working with colleagues in government and business too, we managed to get, 65 billion rand roughly to nearly 6 million workers during COVID. We managed to get the two-part pension reforms benefiting about 2.5 million workers last year. Managed to get a minimum wage. And everybody is contributing in different parts to this thing. Not one individual can claim sole credit. But I think as long as you're making society a little bit better today or tomorrow, and I think and I think I'm lucky, Tshidi, to work with colleagues in COSATU, in the ANC. I think work with colleagues in Parliament across party lines, in government and business colleagues, and I think you can really see South Africa's resilience coming out, and that's why I'm always optimistic. My colleagues think I'm a bit too optimistic, but I remain optimistic despite our blunders.
I'll take that one. Thank you so much. That's Matthew Parks, and that brings us really to an end of the Hanging Out with Matthew Parks.
Hey, remember when our office turned into an indoor swimming pool from the flood incident we had? Oh yeah, feels like it was just yesterday. Luckily, we are with My Way Business Insurance, and they kept us afloat despite the soaked carpets. Talk about an insurer that's got your back no matter the situation. Agreed. With My Way, we can weather any storm with the ultimate confidence.
Cover your building and office contents hassle-free with MyWay Business Insurance. Visit myway.co.za for a quote and do business your way. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
The time to honor our past and step into a shared future as a team is here. Corporate hospitality and team entries for this year's 702 Walk the Talk are now open. Bring your colleagues together on Sunday, 27 July to walk through the historic Freedom Park heritage site, past national landmarks, and finish at the Union buildings. To book hospitality, email hospitality@raceoffice.co.za. For corporate entries, visit primemediaplus.com. Entries close Friday, 18 July. 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park heritage site in the city of Tshwane, where footsteps become footprints.
Mbali's selfie game just went from this to this. Take your selfie game to A-grade level with the new Samsung Galaxy A56. Enhance your selfies by creating your own custom filter with intelligent visual editing. Simply open your camera, snap a pic, tap the filter icon, tap My Filters, then create filter, and ta-da! Your pic just went from 0 to 100. Galaxy A56. Awesome intelligence is here.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Bali Lamini. We begin with news just in. 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of IFP MP Ketamabala Sithole. Sithole was shot and killed last week during a meeting at the Buyafuti hostel in Katlehong in the East Rand. Following the incident, a task team was established to probe the shooting, which also left 2 others injured. The IFP has been pushing its call for police to bring those responsible for the suspected assassination to book. It's understood the suspects will be appearing in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today. Staying with policing matters, Gauteng police believe progress is being made in the fight against crime, with the latest stats showing a drop in most categories. Provincial Police Commissioner Tomim Tombeni released the 4th quarter crime statistics for the 2024-2025 financial year today. He says there were 8,000 less counts of serious crimes for the 3 months under review. Nogukanya Mdambo has the details.
Broadly speaking, contact crimes dropped by more than 8%. Within this category, the murder rate declined by almost 11%. Gauteng Police Commissioner Tomim Tombeni says the leading causes of murders during the period under review were arguments, misunderstandings, road rage and provocation, followed by robbery.
Most of the murders within our province are mainly committed at a public place and then at the residence of the victims or perpetrators.
Despite a drop in the murder rate, Mtombeni says multiple murders remain a concern, claiming the lives of 191 victims during the period under review and accounting for 75 dockets in the system. The hotspots for multiple murders are Soshanguve and Kagiso. Sexual offences dropped by 2.1%, robbery dropped by 8.9%, but kidnappings increased by 15%. Nogukanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
The trial of the man accused of setting alight the Usindiso building in the Joburg CBD continues this morning, with state witnesses expected to take the stand. Stembiso Mdlalose has been standing trial at the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court for allegedly starting that fire. Mdlalose confessed to igniting the blaze, which killed 76 people at the hijacked building almost 2 years ago. Alpha Ramushwana reports.
This week, the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court has been hearing testimony from fire experts investigating the cause of the deadly Usindiso building blaze. Both experts testified that based on the tested debris samples, no traces of petrol or any other flammable liquid were found at the scene. This contradicts Stembiso Mdlalose's confession, where he admitted to using petrol to spark the fire. But this is the same confession he tried to retract in court, claiming he was under duress and under the influence of drugs when he admitted to the crime. The court rejected his bid to have the confession ruled inadmissible. Most state witnesses are expected to take the stand today. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
Emergency service teams are on high alert with the first of the winter cold fronts moving over parts of the country. Weather forecasters say this is a preview of the rest of the winter season. The South African Weather Service has warned of damaging winds in KZN. At the same time, the weekend cold front is expected to bring icy conditions, snow and rough seas across inland and coastal provinces. Temperatures in Gauteng are expected to remain low, with some weather centres warning of the possibility of light snow next week. Johannesburg Emergency Services says its officials are ready to deal with any weather-related incidents. Spokesperson Robert Mulaudzi.
We remain on high alert, monitoring all 7 regions of the city, especially our vulnerable community, our informal settlements throughout the city, to ensure that we can be able to respond to any emergencies which might occur due to these extremely cold temperatures.
And tributes continue to pour in for Cape Town International Jazz Festival founder Rashid Lombard, who passed away yesterday. He has been described as an icon and a giant of jazz and someone who loved people. During the 80s and 90s, he worked as a photographer, documenting the country's most historic moments. Ntutu Zelonene has more.
Rashid Lombard's former colleague and friend Craig Parks says Lombard had a major influence in his radio and business careers.
Today, the Cape Town Jazzathon still runs, still exists. We honor Mr. Lombard every time we think of him or we discuss the festival. His name has to come up.
Industry colleague Martin Myers described Lombard as a consummate professional.
One of the nicest people you would ever meet. In his company, it was always fun. He loved music. He loved life. He would always have his camera with him.
Lombard will be laid to rest today in accordance with Islamic rites. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
Gold is trading at $3,368.92 an ounce. The rand is at 17.84 to the dollar, 24.16 to the pound, 20.36 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $65.63 a barrel.
In the traffic, we've got delays on the N3 North between the Elands Interchange and Van Buren Road due to a major accident scene. There's another one on the N3 North near the Elands Interchange. Delays from the Rand Airport Interchange while traveling on the M2 West, queuing traffic between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road.
A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng today. Temperatures peaking at highs of 18 and 19 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of IFP MP Ketamabala Sithole.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. Choose the 8-kilometer for those walking strong, the 6.7-kilometer in honor of Mandela Month, or the 4-kilometer for families and first-timers in 702's Walk the Talk. Tickets on primemediaplus.com.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Eight minutes past 11. We are through to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. I'm not Clement. I'm Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. He'll be back with you next week. If I'm correct, yes, next week. This hour, we're going to have the Thursday dialogue. I want to speak about the NPA. I want to speak about the trust deficit between police and communities. But this first part of the hour, we're going to speak to journalist Karen Mon. We're going to speak about the NPA and its capability, its capacity to handle high-profile matters. I do want you to also weigh in on this topic. You can call in. You can share your thoughts. 011-883-0702, 072-702-1702. Is the NPA capable of dealing with high-profile matters? That's what we are asking with journalist Karen Mon.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
So the NPA is under fresh scrutiny following yet another bungling of yet another high-profile case. This week we saw the Bloemfontein High Court finding ex-Free State Premier Ace Magashule's former assistant Moradi Cholota's extradition from the US to be unlawful. Cholota was accused alongside Magashule in the asbestos corruption case. Ace Magashule and co-accused are charged with corruption relating to the 255 million rand asbestos roofing removal tender in the Free State. This stems obviously from his time as Premier of the Free State. The NPA's handling of this high-profile case has been a significant point of concern, particularly regarding corruption cases. The trial, of course, has been postponed till 2026. I want you to even listen to Ace Magashule himself yesterday complaining about the handling of this matter and the prosecutors in it.
I don't know whether I can speak to my lawyers, because the state has always been saying they are ready. It looks like we don't have rights, because now and then, even if you meet next year, it's going to be another postponement. They said they are ready. Out in the public, it's us wasting time. Yes. And it's costly for us.
Mr. Magashule, unfortunately, we have to put the road forward. And it's not only the prosecution that may have some problems, but also Defense Counsel have problems in the near future. And then, more importantly, this court has problems because other cases has been allocated to it. There's absolutely nothing to do about it, but I take note of what you are saying.
That sound is courtesy of Newsroom Africa. That interaction there is between the judge, I think Judge Lobsha, and Ace Magashule, who, again, very weird, stood up to speak for himself, but complaining that this matter has taken too long. I mean, politically, he has suffered whatever it is based on the cloud hanging from this particular matter. And I think what happened with Moradi Cholota might have maybe emboldened people like Ace who are involved in this asbestos matter to feel that they've got cause, right? I'm joined on the line by legal journalist, News 24's legal journalist, Karen Mon. Karen, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702. Thank you for your time. The scrutiny now doesn't become about the accused, Karen. We're now looking at the prosecuting authority and whether or not it's doing its job well. I mean, it is unprecedented to see somebody like Ace Magashule standing up and pointing a finger at the prosecutors and how they're delaying this matter. They're keeping them there. And again, casting aspersions to the NPA.
I mean, I think that it's understandable for accused people to want their day in court to be, finalized relatively quickly. But of course, with Mr. Magashule and Edwin Soni, they had been substantively involved in the delay of the matter because they obviously brought those various applications, alleging essentially that the case against them was built on the back of the state capture inquiry evidence, and this was unlawful in Sodi's case. And then, of course, Magashule bringing an application which was really centered on the state's alleged mistreatment of his PA, Moradi Cholota, and really replicating her claims, which was the predominance of her special plea in court, that she, the NPA hadn't been honest, that she had essentially been in prison because she wouldn't turn on Magashule. But ultimately, I think, the more important question here is about how the leadership's NPA's handling of the Schultz matter, that extradition case in the SCA, and the very strange way that they dealt with that particular precedent-setting judgment on extradition has effectively stymied the prosecution of Charlotta in this case, which is something quite detached from what the prosecutors have been doing, and has everything to do with the NPA's stance on that litigation and the potentially devastating impact it has now had on this case, but will have on other cases.
Exactly. Let's make it broader. Let's move beyond this particular matter. One has to think about the Nulani matter. One thinks about Matela Koko. One even thinks about Timothy Motosho. There is a question about the handling of the NPA of these big matters. Your general sense when you look at the big matters that have simply been bungled or just slipped through their hands?
I think there's a few issues. I mean, you and I are in the courtrooms a lot, and we know that there has been this pathology of arrest first, investigate later, which is problematic. And that manifested itself very much in that Matshela Koko case, where it emerges in another postponement application that the court kicks out, that the NPA had been struggling to get a data analyst to go through the data that they'd seized during search and seizures. And that there'd been this sort of, paralysis over this issue, which didn't seem to have been substantively addressed by the leadership of the NPA in that particular case. New Lane, of course, coming before the Supreme Court of Appeal, the judge in that particular matter making it clear that she regarded the state's conduct of the case as a quote-unquote comedy of errors. It is very likely that her decision in that matter with regards to the so-called 204 witness and her treatment of that 204 witnesses' evidence will be found to be problematic by the SCA, and it will be, in my opinion, very likely to be referred for a retrial. But there were all these warning signs in that case that things were not being done properly. And I think what disturbs me, Tshidi, in terms of the Schultz case, which was obviously what Loebscher raised in his judgment, where he basically said that Charlotta was now free to go because of the precedent set by that judgment. He raised the point that, look, that Schultz judgment came out about, he said 2 months, I think it might have been a matter of weeks, before the order for Charlotta's extradition was granted. And the NPA did nothing to engage with the Justice Minister about potentially providing some form of documentation to put that extradition under the seal of the Justice Minister, which was what was pivotal to that case. Essentially, Schultz says the NPA cannot apply for extraditions. This has to be something that's done by the Justice Minister. But nothing happens. And even in the wake of the Schultz judgment, it takes the NPA 4 months to try and appeal. And when it appeals, it says, look, this case can affect 89 different extraditions. Obviously, we know now it's affected Charlotta's extradition, but there are many others. They said serious corruption, serious crimes that the NPA is seeking to bring people back from around the world to face justice. It takes them 4 months to lodge that appeal. They say because of the, toing and froing about who the Justice Minister would be post the GNU. But then they subsequently withdraw the appeal. And we now know Shamila Batoy files an affidavit saying that no, it was because she believed that the NPA could negotiate and with the Justice Department about these extraditions. And there seem to be and I just find this staggering, and I really hope the NPA can explain this. There seemed to be no awareness that the impact of that Schultz judgment was intrinsically going to, as Cholke put it, have this huge impact on 89 other cases. The attitude taken by the state and saying, well, we believe that we could negotiate it in the High Court, whether this judgment was retrospective on these extraditions or not, seems to be fundamentally founded on a very ill-conceived awareness of the law as it stands. And as Loebscher points out in his judgment, he says, I don't have a choice here. If the SCA is given a judgment on extradition that has direct pertinence to this particular matter, and it does, I don't have a decision in terms of whether or not I apply it. I have to. And the fact that the NPA seem to not be aware of that is really quite disturbing to me, and I think would be disturbing to a number of people with even basic understanding of the law.
What does that say? I mean, it's actually quite frightening, where there is no understanding or regard for the law from the National Prosecuting Authority of the country. I'm also worried about the issues around like due diligence and due process. We speak about this matter now. I want you to think back to Timothy Omotosho, for instance, where they did make an announcement that they will appeal, but they only start moving the wheels when the issue of deportation is at play, and where it is quite clear to all of us that this person is going to leave the country before this matter is settled. And that's exactly what happened. Then what you're left with are victims who haven't seen justice because the authority that they relied upon to find in pursuit of justice hasn't moved either fast enough or done what it needs to do correctly in order to make sure that justice is seen to be done.
Well, I mean, it's worse than that, right? Because there were clear issues raised with the prosecution about the particular prosecutor that was pursuing that case at the time, about his conduct and his apparent and alleged dishonesty. So the judge literally says, I have severe misgivings, and the NPA does nothing. Eventually, the judge is forced to remove that prosecutor. And the judge says in her comments on the argument that she is shocked and amazed that the NPA doesn't do any effective cross-examination of Timothy Omotosho, doesn't put to him, just puts the basic version of the accusers to him, but then doesn't test him to enable the court to make a decision on the truthfulness of his testimony. It's really like, to use the metaphor, when you've forgotten about your Standard 5 homework and you decide that you're going to try and mash something together at the absolute last minute. But as you rightly point out, these are people's lives. These women went through hell. They were targeted on social media. They were, their lives were destroyed by this. They went out and gave evidence against someone who they accused of fundamentally betraying the relationship of trust they had with him. They go through that for, I think the trial was about 7-8 years, only to find out that they've been let down by the NPA. And, it wasn't, Tshidi, if you were following that case, and I think many South Africans were because it was such a huge issue, these issues were being raised throughout the trial. There were officials in the NPA who were raising red flags about the conduct of the prosecution in that case and the specific prosecutor, and nothing was done. So it's not like, oh my God, the house is on fire and someone just lit a match now. No, you literally saw the petrol being thrown, everything going on. You're halfway across the parking lot, and now you're turning around and going, while the whole place is a blazing inferno, oh, maybe we should have, try and throw some water on that. It's too late. It's just too late.
What do we blame for these things and the handling of these issues? Why is it feels that the pressure, the performing under the pressure and the spotlight is difficult? Is it a skills deficit? What is at the core? What's at the heart of it?
I think it's a complicated thing. I mean, we know the Zondo inquiry at one stage was looking into the capture of the NPA, which, I mean, you and I were both, in those press conferences where Pravin Gordhan was getting prosecuted, Anwar Dramat, Glynis Breitenbach. There was a whole-scale capture of the NPA where it effectively became a mechanism that was utilized to settle political scores with people's various political enemies, many of whom were on the wrong side of the former President Jacob Zuma. But, it happened long before that. It happened when Bulelani Ngcuka decided that, while he had a so-called prima facie case against Jacob Zuma, he was not going to pursue it against Shabir Sheikh. We know that there's a pivotal inquiry going on now into Vusi Pikoli's testimony that there was active interference from the Mbeki administration into the prosecution of truth and reconciliation related cases. Of course, Mbeki fundamentally denies this, as does Justice Minister Bridget Mabandla. But there was clear evidence that there was always this political dimension of interference in the NPA. And unfortunately, Zondo said he didn't necessarily have the mechanisms to address it, but it was never actually effectively addressed by the NPA itself. And we know there seems to have been a slowness, particularly in relationship to, Batoy's efforts to seek an inquiry and the suspension of DPP Andrew Chalke, who has, obviously a pivotal part to play in the NPA. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of political support for the NPA in terms of doing these inquiries into errant prosecutors. And, I think that there's a morale problem. I think there's a resource problem. I think there's clear and overt difficulties in getting proper forensic investigation, for instance, in the ESCOM case, etc. But ultimately, it has to be about leadership. And it has to be about people stepping up to the plate and saying, we have these problems, let's address them, let's play open cards with the public, let's play open cards with civil society and organizations, and let's find a way, though we are, we've been so crippled by what happened to us, to actually build ourselves into an authoritative organization. And instead of doing these, arrest first, ask questions later type prosecutions, let's take cases to court where the investigations are finalized and we can bring a case and we can get convictions. Because, Babes, it's been a long time since we've seen a really high-profile conviction.
We've been waiting. We want to see the crooks who are at the very top in orange, and we are not getting that. The rise of Shamila Batoy was actually a promise that that's what we're going to get. If you listen now to people speak about African Shamila Batoy, you hear that she has been a failure by all accounts and that she's got to go. Her term of office is around the corner, but the patience with her is completely run out. And you did speak a little bit about leadership, and I kept saying to myself, geez, we've gone through so many people, even the Nwasanas, the Sean, we've been impatient with so many people. What needs to be done?
I mean, I think it's such a complex issue, but ultimately it's got to be about, the president also has a role to play here, and the Justice Department has a role to play. And we know there's been this kind of skirmish between the NPA and the Justice Department over the state capture inquiry evidence. There was obviously, when we had the former minister Simelane in there, there were allegations of potential malfeasance there. That was obviously a difficulty. But, I think that it was, you remind me so much. I think Shamila Batoy came in 2019, if I'm correct. And she literally gave that press conference where she said the days of impunity are over. And she spoke very specifically, Tshidi, about the cancer of impunity and she was right, how it erodes at the body politic, how it erodes as our society. Because when people know that they can get away with things, they do. And it really is a huge disservice to I believe, the vast majority of South Africans who want this country to work, who want clean and effective governance, and who want, a proper future. And so it's about yes, far-reaching political pressure. It's about Parliament. Parliament has been increasingly trying to do a better job in terms of exercising oversight over the NPA. And I think that we are looking at the very real possibility that a civil society organization or an individual has been affected by this kind of, misconduct or problematic professional conduct of the NPA is going to bring some kind of form of litigation to seek declaratory orders in terms of the NPA. We know, for instance, Glynis Breitenbach and Paul Hoffman have spoken about the creation of a completely new body to deal with corruption outside of the bodies that exist with the NPA. But ultimately, it's about that political pressure, and it's about ensuring proper leadership of the NPA. You are right. Shamila Batoy's term comes to an end in January, but Tshidi, we don't have any sense of who her replacement will be or what that process will involve. And again, that's a political question that isn't being answered by our president, because that is within his discretion to answer.
That should have actually it should have started the ball game around that sort of long start. Remember, he had a hearing in the interest of transparency when Shamila was to be appointed. We should actually be somewhere in that process if it's going to play itself out publicly that way as well. Karen, as I wrap up, just very quickly, we're going to end where we started with that Ismail Shule matter. Is it crumbling in your eyes, is this the beginning of the end? Muradi Cholota is such a core, such a key part from what we understand of that matter, that asbestos matter against the former premier.
Well, she is an important person because she was obviously the linchpin between, the alleged gratifications that were obtained from murdered businessman Igor Pambani, of course, we know was one of the major beneficiaries of the asbestos tender, and Magashule. And she says that because she refused to say that, she sent those emails to Pambani seeking certain things from him after payments for the tender were made, that she refused to say that those instructions came from Magashule, that she was then prosecuted. But, there is a very detailed FTI forensic investigation that was done into all the role players in this matter that is my understanding, very strong and ultimately persuaded the Americans to extradite Cholota back to South Africa. But, I think that, Jan Denesen, the prosecutor, said that they are prepared to stay this case until the question around her presence in that trial is ultimately decided by the Constitutional Court. But I have severe misgivings, and I stand to be corrected, whether the court, in the circumstances in which this appeal has been mounted, is going to hear that appeal. And if it doesn't, what are the state's options? Because I'm not sure that given the way that they handled the Schultz case, they have much room to maneuver in terms of appealing it. And in that case, Tshidi, it's not just about Cholota. It's about 89 other extraditions where people are not going to be brought back to face justice in South Africa because of the way the NPA handled this matter.
I'm going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much for your time. That's Karen Mon, News 24's legal journalist, trying to help us make sense of the NPA and these matters that it's seemingly bungling and the consequences thereof going forward. It is 11:30. Here is Maki Molapo with your headlines.
Thanks, Tshidi. Good morning. Two suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of IFP MP Ketambala Stole. Stole was shot and killed last week during a meeting at the Biafuta hostel in Katlehong in the East Rand. Following the incident, a task team was established to probe the shooting, which also left 2 others injured. Gauteng police believe progress is being made in the fight against crime, with the latest stats showing a drop in most categories. Provincial Police Commissioner Tomim Tombeni released the fourth quarter crime statistics for the 2024-2025 financial year today. He says there were 8,000 less counts of serious crimes for the 3 months under review. And forensic investigations are underway to determine the circumstances behind a fatal tree fall in Cape Town's Company Gardens. A 59-year-old woman died when an oak tree toppled over during the Slave Route Challenge on Sunday. The tree struck the runner 4 kilometers into the race. Those are the headlines. This Eyewitness News and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
On the N1 North, there's been an accident in the Pulshof area. It happened right after Winnie Mandela Drive, causing heavy delays. Please try to avoid this one. If you're heading towards areas like Midrand, please try using the M1 North instead. If you are traveling on the M2 West, some delays between the Crown Interchange and the Main Reef Road. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 North. This is between the Elands Interchange and Van Buren Road due to that accident. It's still there, causing those long queues. So please be on the lookout and drive with care. We'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons,
3 to 6.
What are you looking to change? Do you want to change the words of the Constitution? Or do you want the legislation, for example, that governs access to housing to be reframed and changed?
We recognize that there is noble intent in the preamble when it says South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And we are a very diverse country, and I believe that the crafters of our Constitution bore that in mind when they made that determination. However, what we're seeing in South Africa is that there are many people who are not South Africans living in our country.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Dear Journal, trying to be an adult, day 3,268. I love payday because my salary would look huge to 15-year-old me, but that's in 2011 money, not 2024 money. 28-year-old me is not so easily impressed.
Recently removed from the family payroll? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
A bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, some flavored yogurt for breakfast. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels now. Sign the petition on healer.org. HEALA.org.
Specsavers Audiology, South Africa's largest audiology group, brings you the all-new Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aids. Experience cutting-edge features at a price you can afford. For a limited time only, buy one Clarity Pro rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right, buy one and get 50% off the second. Visit specsavers.co.za to find your nearest store and ask for Clarity Pro today. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
11:34. It's 11:34. Tshidi Madia in for Clement Manyathela. I did say earlier on that we'll have a conversation about the trust deficit that exists between communities and police. Yesterday we spoke about Westbury. Today we're speaking about Riverlea. And all these areas are affected, but also what you're seeing is community members seemingly turning their backs on police. I want you to also weigh in on this conversation. If you've got questions for our guests, please feel free to call in and ask questions. If you've got a view about what can be done to make things better, feel free to call in. Our number is 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. I'm joined now on the line by two guests to discuss the story. I've got Ian Cameron, who's chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, and I'm also joined by Bernice Dolly, a Riverlea community activist. Thank you both for making time for us. Bernice, let me start with you. Good morning and welcome to Radio 702. Let's speak about what the community is experiencing in Riverlea, what the frustrations are actually about.
Good morning, Tshidi. Thank you for having me on your show. Before I start, I want to say greetings to the minister or the member of parliament that is sitting. I didn't hear correctly what that is on the line with me. And then also greetings to the residents and the people and the listeners. When you speak about the police and the community, I'm going to be straightforward. And I think our straightforwardness can't break any friendships. Before we had faith in our police, and it's sad to say it was the old apartheid government that we had faith in, the people that we were supposed to be fearing. The police that we have now, we've become more of a friend to them, majority, because it needs a community engagement. Without the community, the police won't be able to do their work, because it is us that sees what is happening in the communities. So if we don't have a relationship with our police officers, I don't think they make any success arrest or anything. So the relationship between the communities, we are scared to go to the police, even if it's an abuse of a woman. I'm making an example. Just to go and stand there, the treatment that we get, they're either sitting, they would question you, like, they'll make you feel inferior, scared to tell them what actually happened. Because some of them would even laugh at you. And we've been honest here. Our police station in Riverlea, it's like if I have a problem now, I can run up there. It won't even take me about 5 minutes or 10 minutes to run up here. That's how close it is. When there's a gunshot, I don't think the police cannot hear. The visibility of our police is missing in the communities, and yet the Langlagte police station and the community is so close by.
I want to bring Ian Cameron in for a second. Ian, you're listening to Bernice speak about the experiences, and she says that the police, in essence, were more effective during apartheid. That is concerning, because police then were working very differently. They were not what you want of the police force. What you hear now is you want police force that have relationships with communities, that aren't there to enforce a particular view. Yes, law, but are meant to also work and aid and be part of the community. What are police meant to be? The police presence in communities, their role, their relationship. What is ideal?
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, I mean,
the frustration is immense, and it's all over the country. Our policing model is based on a what's meant to be a community policing model. In other words, you've got community policing forums. That's your ground level oversight function. It's meant to function that way, and there should be this constant engagement, this trust relationship with communities on ground level. And it should work in a way where your police station is a one-stop shop to resolve certain issues. Now, as was just said, it is extremely frustrating at the moment because apart from the resource shortages, and we'll get to that now, that trust relationship certainly is not there. And what makes it difficult is I think on a very senior level over the years, the trust relationship got far worse because certain members, especially on a senior level for so long, were allowed to act with impunity. And even now, we still have many questionable characters in high-level positions in SAPS. And therefore, it's easy to see why it is going the way it is on ground level, because even on ground level, you've got members that get away with significant transgressions, and you can just imagine, apart from the community, you can just imagine the frustration for all of the good police members that are still in the South African Police Service. I mean, they feel vulnerable, they feel exposed, they can't trust their own colleagues. So it's an extremely difficult situation. And then I must also emphasize, I think it was yesterday or the day before, a complaint was lodged against me by Pop Crew at the Ethics Committee in Parliament, specifically about my remarks regarding the protectors or so-called protectors of the Deputy President when they assaulted those innocent civilians next to the road. So that specific case is an excellent example of thuggery by bad cops, in my opinion, and the fact that they are then defended as though they are above the law, and that can never be allowed.
That's another big thing in terms of what happens when police are found wanting, and I think that's kind of what this community is talking about as well. How widespread is it? We speak about Rivoli and what happens around illegal miners. There is a question around what happened in Westbury as well. How widespread is it where we are seeing communities say, actually, we don't want to trust the police with our well-being, with our safety and security. We don't want to necessarily work with the police.
It's something that I've noted across the country. I mean, I can tell you, I get hundreds of complaints every single week regarding exactly that. The frustrating part is, and I say this very openly, there are really still a lot of phenomenal people serving in SAPS. So, at least at the moment, we can still refer people and try and assist where we can with strong individuals that do remarkable jobs. I just think that there's a big cleaning up process that would need to happen in the higher echelons of SAPS. And if we don't do that, we can't expect much to change on ground level. We must also remember that the SAPS model at the moment, and this is where I don't completely agree with the structuring at the moment, or the fact that very high risk kinds of investigations are done on station level, is that, let's use you as an example. You are now Constable, let's call you Constable 702 for today's discussion. You are Constable 702. You have got to investigate an illegal miner, and you know that that specific illegal miner trades firearms with someone that lives in your street, and you live in that same community, and you know what I mean. So you're so exposed. You just don't have the kind of protection that you need, and that is the case all over the country, and that's what makes it difficult for the police.
Benita, when I come back to you now to bring you back into the conversation, you spoke about this lack of trust. What would you want to see happening to try and close the gap where residents can maybe lean closer to the police?
More community engagement with our police officers. more visibility, especially after school, because now we have a problem with, gangsterism is real. I'm not going to mention names because we're not part of gangsterism. We are praying mothers, and we want to see peace in our communities for all. That is one of the comments that I want to make. We are tired of seeing that our kids are hurting each other. It is sad for us parents to see this society doing this to themselves. They are hurting themselves and their brothers and children that they grew up with. So it's very sad. That's one of the comments before I do anything else. So more police visibility at schools, especially our high schools. When they go in the morning and when they come out, because after schools when they walk, the magic happens. I think you've seen the incidents in Westbury, you've seen the incidents in El Dorado Park, and most, not only in our communities, in other communities as well at the schools, what is happening. Then we've got a major problem with the mining. It's all around us in Rivoli. When they shoot on, or when they go out to go and raid, that engagement to just communicate with the community, even if it's on radio, to say, community, on this day, we are asking community leaders or people to be indoors, because stray bullets are killing our people also out there when they are fighting. We're not sure between the police and the Zamas. We're not sure when the raid's going to happen. It's a war zone in our community. And innocent bystanders are getting hurt. So that visibility of the police, I mean, the mining is happening right across Langlagte police station. Community engagement, let's find a solution. How are we going to close these mines? Or even, I don't know, communities must benefit from these mines. Maybe we can teach them to mine, because if it's a mining community, there must be some kind of solution. And the Minister of Police, when he came to our community, Becky Cele, unfortunately he left. He made a vow to, and he said to us, watch the space. The space is starting again. Now it's starting again. You've seen on the news, our councillor was there. Thank you very much. Our councillor is hand-on. We want to give him that with the mining. There is community forums that has been created by the community. The police must find out what the community is doing. There is brigades on the ground. The police, not all of them are bad.
All right. Bernice, I'm going to ask you to hold for a second. Danny in Rivoli, I do see you. I'm going to come to you after this break to get thoughts from residents in Rivoli, what the concerns are, and what are the possible solutions. What is the way forward when there's such a massive trust deficit from communities when it comes to police? Infrastructure connects economies, finance powers the vision. This week on 702, R&B Africa Focus explores how financial solutions are enabling the infrastructure that drives real economic change. Join award-winning journalist Crystal Orderson as she sheds light on the financial innovation and major infrastructure projects that are reshaping the future of African cities, industries and trade routes. The R&B Africa Focus on 702 Drive with John Perlman. That's R&B Africa Focus on 702 Drive with John Perlman this Thursday. R&B is a proud sponsor of B20 and a leading African corporate and investment bank.
Every time we are on the radio, we are not just talking.
We're turning words into actions.
Actions that change communities.
Actions that make a difference. And every time you tune into 702,
you're not just listening to the radio, you're in conversation with us.
And your voice matters. You're on a journey with us.
And every step we take counts.
It's these steps that not only help us grow as individuals, but also bring us together as a society.
Through the good times and the bad.
Every step gets us closer to the South Africa we want to be.
So keep walking with 702.
And let's make this a journey to remember. 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Peggy, hello?
Smart Steve from Momentum here. Can I have a minute?
Time is money, Steve. What are you trying to sell me?
Get this. By using your smartphone, we can check your health in a quick 90-second screening. And if you answer a few extra fitness questions, you can save up to 35%.
So Momentum has tech that saves me time.
Well, you see, you catch on fast.
That sounds great, Steve. How do I get it?
The smart move is to chat with your financial advisor about Momentum life returns to save on your life insurance premiums.
Take my money, Steve.
Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Time to get Avolicious, because they're just so nutritious. From delectable toast to fab salads, everybody loves Avos because they're super versatile. Plus, they're high in heart-healthy fats, vitamin K, and biotin, free from cholesterol and sodium, and can form part of a successful energy-controlled diet for weight management. And remember, green skin Avos remain green, while dark skin Avos turn purple-black when ripe. For Avolicious recipes and more info about the South African Avocado Growers Association, visit avocado.co.za.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Get a little bit more from those business confidence numbers. Zion Klung is the chief economist.
We're talking about the business confidence, which means this is a survey of business executives that make decisions on investments across different sectors of the economy. And what it shows is 40% of the surveyed business executives are satisfied with the prevailing business conditions, which means 60% remain quite pessimistic.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. ABSA is a registered FSP. Your story matters. 702, let's walk the talk.
Your voice.
Your life.
Your afternoon radio.
On 702 Afternoons.
With Relebohile Mabota.
11:49, the Clement Manyathela Show, Tshidi Madia standing in for Clement. We are having the Thursday dialogue and we're discussing ways to manage and to close that gap, the trust deficit between communities and police officials. I'm joined on the line by Ian Cameron, who's chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, as well as Bernice Dolly, a Riverlea community activist. On the line before I went to the break, I said I've got Danny from Riverlea, a resident who also has views about what needs to be done. Residents have been complaining about illegal mining, but also the lack of police visibility in the area, and the fact that it is an area that's battling with crime-related, gang-related crimes. Danny, good morning. Welcome to Radio 702.
Tshidi, good morning to you. This is Danny again. And good morning to your guest. And hello to Bernice. Tshidi, the problem in Riverlea, it's not only the police problem. We know that the police got shortcomings. They're short-staffed. There's always no vehicles that are deployed whenever we are in trouble or whenever people reach to the police station for assistance. But I think what's been happening recently, and since the Zama issue, is the lack of political will and the failure of our government to ensure that we formalize the informal settlement, which is called Zamampelo, just right next to the doorstep of Riverlea. People in Riverlea are selling their houses and moving out because of that informal settlement. That informal settlement is a calm haven, not only for Zama. What we request the police, if they're listening, and the authorities, is to ask them to come up with long-term strategies to deal with crime, number one, to look at the efficiency and whether the police got enough manpower and vehicles to deal with crime and to provide service to the community. We know that since last year, when the police and everybody came to Riverlea to try and deal with the Zamazamas, it was a short-term strategy. What we're asking them, come and close the operation of the Zamazamas.
Okay.
Then we can deal with these people.
All right.
But they're not doing that.
Okay, thank you for that, Danny. Let me bring Ian back in now. Ian, I mean, that's the thing. It's short-term strategies. People even argue that when something goes awry, the police arrive, the media arrives, it's a big show and tell, it's a big spectacle. But it becomes quiet, the police go away, and the actual work to try and deal with the issue isn't there. And I think what complicates illegal mining is that actually, in some of these communities, they are benefiting from the unlawful operations that are at play.
Yeah. So let me start just with a short-term approach that we see the whole time. We very often, Riverlea itself and surrounds, many other communities that struggle with the same challenges here, that we have National Intervention Unit being deployed there, or members from TRT, and then you've got this whole, almost an army of police that arrive in uniform, and they stabilize for a short while, and when they leave, everything is back to square one. So that approach is not sustainable. Something that we've been fighting for quite a bit the last few months in Parliament is to say that it must be, we must get away from this low-level, high-arrest kind of model. Every time we hear about Operation Shanela, the first part of Shanela, we hear about all of these arrests being made, and our answer is it's good to make arrests, but what were the convictions? How many convictions came out of it, or were they all just released the next day? And we very, very rarely hear about the conviction rate. So I think we need an integrated approach. We need to make sure that, especially with something like gangsterism or illegal mining, it must be a prosecution-led type of investigation. At the moment, it's siloed. The investigation is done, and then it's just handed over to a prosecutor. And very often, when that prosecutor says we won't prosecute the matter, it's left. It's not taken on any further. Whereas the prosecutor should actually be giving guidance as to how the investigation or the docket can be improved in order for successful conviction to happen. And that's the way we need to approach it. Another part is, I think we focus on foot soldiers far too much. Everyone just wants to stabilize the ground level issue, which is critical, especially for innocent people that face the danger. So there's no debating that. But that being said, we need to zoom in on the kingpins, because we very rarely hear about successful conviction of the kingpins. For example, the South African Revenue Service should play a role. How can we get the kingpins out of circulation and make them also close shop?
I'm going to play a voice note. The questions come through on the voice notes. Please take a listen.
Hi, regarding this policing situation and the Westbury example, I honestly think people don't know what they want. If I recall, last year, the Westbury residents were crying crocodile tears, crying that police is doing nothing about drug abuse and all kinds of things. Now there's an operation, and now the complaint is, they're not being sensitive enough. They are not telling the community what they're doing. What is the use of having police operations if the entire community know an operation is about to commence? I really think as South Africans, we need to look at ourselves. We can't keep complaining if the police is trying to do something and then we don't like how they do it. Our crime is out of control. At this stage, I'm almost at a point where I won't ask questions anymore as long as the crime rate comes down drastically. So I honestly think, people need to decide what's more important, to live in a crime-free society or, to be handled with kid gloves. We can't have it both ways.
Bernice, I want to give you the last word. I thought maybe I'll close off with Ian Cameron, but let me give you the last word, Bernice, because that's criticism towards the community. And when you're an activist that you represent, that I think she said you crying crocodile tears, that you want for the police arrive, and then you are unhappy and dissatisfied. Just a very brief reaction, please.
That's what I said. The community and the police need to work together in order for us to solve the crime, because we, the community, knows what's happening. If we're not speaking or we don't have faith in our policing, and the police doesn't have faith in the community, nothing will happen. More in community engagement, more opportunities, more planning strategies, and that's something that will work. Community, policing, government, all of them together. Their word must be their honor. You can't say on the media, the ministers or Panyata says they got eye in the sky. When some crime happens, they're going to install cameras in all the communities.
Make sure that if anyone attacks the police when the police are doing their work, those community members need to be exposed. It's absolutely unacceptable. And the second part is on the organized crime part of these types of issues, we can't have local police investigate it. And we need to make sure that where local police were involved, but there was no result, I think we need to look into lifestyle audits.
All right, thank you so much. That's Ian Cameron, Chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police, as well as Bernice Dolly, a Riverlea community activist. How do we close the gap between the police and communities that they're meant to serve?
Kickstart your small business with a starter bundle from Nedbank. Enjoy free transactions for 6 months, including free cash deposits and withdrawals and a free debit card with easy digital access and a dedicated banker to guide you along every step of the way. Open a Nedbank starter bundle with SA's best bank for SMEs. Apply on the Money app today. Nedbank. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Yep, coming up next is Mandy Wiener with the Midday Report. Good afternoon, Mandy. What's on the menu?
Well, more crime is on the menu. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's actually a very crime heavy. It's a very crime heavy news cycle today.
Yeah, it's quite sad.
So the Gauteng Police Commissioner has been speaking about crime in the province. The KZN Police Commissioner has been speaking about crime. We're going to speak to the Cape Town Mayor about devolution of policing and conviction rates. And then I want to tell you about an Australian criminal trial that is super interesting.
Oh yes, it's fascinating. It's about the mushrooms. Yes. Okay, I'm going to listen up for that. Thank you so much.
So we're going to speak to an Australian journalist about that. We'll speak to the Agriculture Department on the outbreak of foot and mouth. And then our book of the week, and I've been in a half an hour tutorial to make sure that I pronounce this correctly, and I'm going to keep trying.
Yes. Oh, say it.
Nongqawuse.
Keep working on it.
I've been trying so hard.
I'm so proud of myself because I got it right. It's 12 o'clock. Here's the news update, eyewitness news update with Maki Mulapo. Thank you so much for tuning in.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Maki Mulapo. The two suspects arrested in connection with the murder of IFP MP Ketamabala Sithole are appearing in the Palm Ridge Magistrates Court today. Sithole was shot and killed last week during a meeting with the Biafuthi hostel in Katlehong in the East Rand. Following the incident, a task team was established to probe the shooting, which also left two others injured. The IFP has been